I believe we're alive, is known as taking a swig from
Hello,
his
everybody who are
gigantic.
live with us.
Yeah, what is that? What are you What are you drinking?
So it's basically just orange juice, but it's Mio water flavoring. So it's just it will squirt in some water.
Ah,
My girlfriend got me
Oh,
this water bottle, and I've been drinking way more water since, and it's great. I felt
wow.
amazing.
There you go. You're Mr. Water.
I am
So,
legally changing my name.
so we got known at. You haven't been on the stream for a good month.
It's been like has it been a month?
It has
Wow.
been more
yeah,
than a
I
month
think so.
because you were sick. You were
I
sick.
was sick, and then I was stressed, and then I took Easter weekend off, so I didn't get any work done. So I had to do more work to catch up for the work I didn't do because self-employment is a perpetual loop of falling behind.
Yes. As
Sounds
someone
about
who's been
right.
self-employed his entire adult life, you either have too much work or not enough,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. There's no in between.
I mean,
Ever.
I think there's a difference between self-employment and self-employment because you're a contractor and have a decent employment contract, though, Steven.
What do you
True.
mean? I don't know. I've always been self-employed. I mean, I run companies, but it's still self-employment.
Sure, but yes, but you run companies, but it's still self-employed. It's a little different.
Okay,
Mhm.
fine. Fine. Well, now
a little.
it's a little, but I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. This is
That's
all
true.
I do. I started. In fact, I work all remotely, and all my companies work remotely. We've been doing this for about 15 years now, maybe even longer. So when all this happened, it was like, another day in the office for us. It was
You're
no
just
big
like
deal.
everybody in the world is catching up to you now.
Pretty
where
much.
You've been for over a decade.
Yes. Welcome to
Yeah.
my. Well, you know why? Because I hated commuting. I hate commuting.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I felt like I'm one of these people who always, I still am. I have to do 10 things at once. So when I was in the car commuting, I was like, this is the biggest waste of time. Now, this is before cell phones. And
Mhm.
so what I used to do is go to the library and rent books. So at least I can listen to books on tape. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, at least I'm doing something sort of productive way before podcasts or anything. So I listened to Stephen King books and Tom Clancy books. I was listening to a lot of books. So at least when I was commuting, I was doing that. And then eventually, obviously, once iPads and iPods came out, and then, like the iPhone, then suddenly commuting wasn't as bad. But if you drive, it still sucks because you can talk on the phone when you're driving, but that's about it. But I started my companies basically so I didn't have to commute. That's how much I hated
It's an
commuting.
interesting reason to start a company. It
Well,
turns out it worked out.
It
What's
worked out real
interesting
well.
is I'm almost going full circle to the point where I live in, it's not like a tiny apartment, but it's only about 2 or 3 decently sized rooms. So since I work from home, I can't escape it. Where I work is also where I play, which is like
Oh, yeah.
15 steps from where I sleep. And it's getting there mentally, especially after
You
quarantine.
get used to it. You get used to it. Because
I've definitely put thought into like renting an office space
Yeah.
in my city for like however much per month, just so I can have a workstation and a PlayStation.
I guess so. Like I have an office, and so when I was looking for a house, I was like, and it's funny because this was in 2007, and we were like, it needs an office. They're like, an office?
Mhm.
I'm like, it's like, yeah, home office. I work at home, and they're like, okay. And we found, I got a big home office. It's funny now. It's like necessary. That's like right on the list. Like you have to have a home office because everyone works at home.
Mhm.
And then my wife was working at home too. She was I was just talking about this. It was fascinating. She was the very first employee at Hearst ever to work at home. She was the pilot when she had her first kid. And no one back, this was like a lot of people that were old school. They didn't want people to work from home. So then her boss left and she got a younger boss and like, oh yeah, we could try it out. So they tried it out. And this is that big building in Manhattan that looks like it's made out of triangles, and just where she worked. It's owned by Hearst. And then they were like, oh, okay, this is so successful that not only can you work at home, but we're going to have everyone work at home. And then we are going to lease the building. It's originally was just for Hearst employees. They're going to lease out the building to other people. and they'll just have everyone work at home. And now the whole building, like almost the whole building, is leased, and it's not even Hearst doesn't even use it. And unfortunately, they went one step further and they said, in fact, you don't even need to work in New York anymore in publications. You can work in Florida. And then they moved the whole company to Florida, and we didn't move. She left, but so it's and soon you won't even have to be in Florida. Then you'll be in like Timbuktu or India or something. So.
But yeah, I know that the work-life space thing can be tricky, and like Steven, obviously it's easier if you have enough space
Correct.
to have an office area that is pretty separated. But I'm guessing that if you add Nonat's space to my space and then double it, that your total space in your house is probably more. Then again, you have a bigger family, but
yeah. My house is not that big, believe it or not.
I think my first step
size.
to getting just better with a like mental thing is I want to invest in a standing desk. That way I can stand while I work and then adjust it to a sitting position while I'm relaxing. And I can at least separate the two like that.
I got a standing desk and I've never used it.
Yeah, Steven, I'm not assuming you have a McMansion or anything. Just my space is very, very small.
Okay.
The way Nonat described 15 steps to where he sleeps, I assume that his is also.
Well, before I lived here, I lived in the Manhattan, and I had
that's fair, and that's really
I had
tiny.
I worked at home, and I had a little area, and I was recording a podcast back then. This is back in the mid aughts, when, trust me, recording a podcast back then was like impossible. There was
Gaming
nothing.
Steve.
Gaming Steve. It was really hard. I had
Where'd
to
you put it up? Like its own website, or
Yeah, I had it on its own website, and Apple actually had podcasts back then.
yeah.
And it was that man. If I kept with that podcast was gargantuan. That was like there was no podcast. Like you count them on one hand. And I heard I was big into Board Game Geek had a podcast. They were the very first podcast I ever heard. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I could do a podcast. And then I had to go like J&R Music World. I had to get all this equipment, and then I figured how to do it, and there was nothing out, and I built a whole website, and then I started Gaming Steve, and that was like probably the first video game podcast maybe ever. And then like GameStop and IGN, they did theirs. And I mean, it was a very small world back then. Like it's like when I was originally on the internet, it was so small you knew everyone. So I tried to always be in the front. Try to be the leader. Either that or on board.
You don't know everyone on the internet, Steven.
Not anymore. But back in 1986, you did. In 86, you could read the internet in like a weekend. You're like, I'm going to read the internet.
I couldn't read anything in 1986 because I didn't know how to read.
Oh, well, that's your problem. I know how to read. In 86, the internet was so small. The only people on it was like a couple of educations, couple of EDUs, a fair amount of military. There was a lot of military on, and there was like Microsoft, and that was it. It was like there was no other companies on. I remember that. You'd see Microsoft address, a couple universities, and military, and that was it. And it was all B boards back then, using like Veronica and Archie. Do you remember those? Okay, I'm talking to kids. I don't remember. Anyhow, welcome to Roll for Combat, and we're going to talk all about live, work, spaces, and early internet stories. But before we do that, we're going to talk probably about gold and economies in role-playing games. We're not just going to talk about gold. Gold is a economy, and we couldn't figure out a good way of talking about, hey, how do economies work and why do you need them? And before that, a few things. First of all, if you have a question, you want to answer it immediately, super chat, just say, hey, it's $2, and you will get your answers answered by us right away. Also, I'm going to start off all these with a little bit of news, just because we always have news now, because we have enough products out, is that the Dragon Ancestry book, which Nonat did a really good review of. He even found...
which slowly fell apart as I had more and more drinks.
It did. But you even found a subtle error, and we fixed it.
Yeah.
How about that?
During the review.
During the review. Now, how about that for being responsive? That's how responsive... Because I feel like this is a living document and that it should be changed over time to the point that I can. And it's still being proofed at the printer, so I can still make changes relatively easily. So yeah, find anything else, let us know. And then also, it's on Path Builder right now. You can build a dragon on Path Builder. It's also an easy PS2 Easy, which is my favorite site. I actually like that one more than Archives of Nephis, just because it's easier to use.
I usually prefer Archives of Nephis.
I use both.
Nethys tends to be my mode, but only because I've gotten into the muscle memory of Alt-Tab to Chrome, Control-T, whatever, space 2E, enter, over the course of like a fraction of a second.
What I do is before each session, I pre-bookmark. I get all the monsters up and any weird things, rules I might need, and I put them up on one of my monitors so that I have everything ready. And I actually use PF Easy during my fights. I don't even look at the VTT or even my paper. I use the paper for notes, but then I actually use it to click on like what the spells do, things like that, because it's easy if you do it that way. So that's the way I do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then,
hey, the 5e version of Dragons is over to me. So we're going to get through that pass soon.
Yep.
Ish, and then get it on over to people once we can lay it out.
And the VTT for Dragons is almost
super close, right?
It's really close, except I have this one reviewer, my super reviewer. I don't know if you saw that, Mark, but man, that guy, he finds...
I saw it. He finds a lot of very small bugs in the Foundry.
He always have these one or two reviewers that are just monsters, and this guy is a monster. He finds everything. So like seriously, we had like 10 reviewers like, the VTT looks great, it's ready to go, and he's like, okay, let me look at it, and he's like, here's the 25 things I found in 10 minutes. I'm like, really? I mean,
that's what you want.
I know.
Yeah.
You do but then it worries me though. I'm like, come on. But they're very minor, they're all like formatting stuff, but still it's amazing.
So it's very, very close.
Very.
And that's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that the beginner box day for the PF2E subreddit went really well.
Yes, I saw it. I was watching
beginner
it.
boxes on Foundry, so you'll soon be able to get your dragons on Foundry. I mean, you can already buy them. You just will actually get them.
Yes. Well, you'll buy it now, and it's $14. It's cheap.
It is. I was actually surprised how much is in the Foundry.
Oh, it's everything. The whole thing. The whole book is in Foundry.
I guess I didn't expect the lore.
Well, if you're going to buy it, I give it to you. So
yeah. So, but it does have it. So it's got everything.
Well, it's got everything that the PDF has. It's just a different format.
Right.
I mean, all the pictures are in there too. Everything. So.
Yeah, I just at first I didn't expect the lore because I was like, what are you going to do with the lore in Foundry? But you get
it's in there.
So you get everything.
Yeah, you get everything. And then for
y'all gonna do Emerald Isle on Foundry as well, right?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Indigo
Isles. Close enough. Yeah. In fact, for that, I'm actually I'm trying to find a team. There's a couple of teams out there. Actually, the same people who did the was it Powder, the Keg, whatever the new one.
The first part of
Punks in a Powder Keg by Vanessa Hoskins, who's also the person of honor at PaizoCon this year, who's also on obviously Roll for Combat and does a million things for me on the show. That was done by this very good team. This is all they do. So if you look at this is like a super module. Like they have different layers in the map, and they literally changed all the interfaces so they look like the module. So they went like 10 steps past normal. So I was like, hey, would you be interested in doing the Indigo Isle? So I'm in talks with them so they can make their like the Indigo Isles like super awesome in Foundry. Nice. So right now that's what we're doing.
Great.
And we laid out, and I laid out the first adventure. It's actually laid out. It's about 100 pages so far.
This is going to be so long. I'm almost done
one adventure.
With the second adventure, and it is longer than the first.
Well, yeah, but it's so good. But the thing is, it's long, but it doesn't feel long because it's the exact same length as a regular adventure path. I put in a lot of information
you
for
say
the
that,
GMs.
But it's 100 pages of adventure, whereas a regular adventure path is 96 pages, a lot of which is not an adventure.
True, so but I'm talking about the actual...
longer than a single adventure path part. But when you multiply by 3, it is still shorter than a 6-part adventure path, right?
I'm talking about actually when you play it, though. Like, it still will take you the same amount of time. It's only like,
It's
from
got
levels.
a little more content probably overall, but that's
A
not
little
a bad
bit.
thing either.
No, never complain about too much content.
Yeah.
And it has
Yeah.
a lot of like guidance and just extra information that makes it easier to run, and that's part of what makes it longer.
Yeah, we put it in. I put in. It's like, as someone who's run about a quarter of the APs, I used all that knowledge. I have a group that literally has lawyers in it. So I'm like, okay, if my group was in this, what would they say? And how do I counter that? So I made sure like there's notes in there for the GMs. Like, okay, if they tried to do this, then this is what you want to do. If they try to do this, then this is what you want to do. And I even have,
If
if
they
you
say objection, you say overrule.
Right. No, but it does. We do. I have a lot of like rules, lawyers, things in there because I'm thinking, how would my players break the game? This is what you do if they try to break it. And so we have a lot of that. And we also have, which I've never seen before, the what if they lose? Because there's all adventure paths assume the PCs win.
Yep.
And it bothers me because what if they lose, and then as the GM, you got to figure the stuff out on the fly. So we literally say, okay, if they lose this and you want to keep the adventure going, this is how you can handle it. Because there's a part
There's a
where
fair number of groups out or opponents that wouldn't necessarily kill them. And when it is an opponent who would obviously kill them, it doesn't have a section that says what if the PCs lose.
Well, right, that, and if they lose, they're in trouble. But some of them are like, if they lose, now they need to do something for the bad guys. And how do you handle that in the game? So we have a whole bunch of those sections. You'll see. It's gonna change everything about role-playing games. And
wait, I thought that everything in all time and space was going to change because of that video that you showed.
It
already.
is. I know it is
the one that was like coming soon.
Well, I have the logo now.
No, it was nothing will ever be the same again.
And that is true. It will never be. It is true. You agree.
It's the Greek philosophy of you can't step into the same river twice. Nothing is ever the same.
That's right.
Whether or not we put out a new product.
Hey, it's because of us. I like to think. Seriously, this thing is going to be... Oh, it's so close. We're so close. I got the logo. I have a little bit more art. I just want a little bit more art before we announce it. But we're getting there.
The question is, at this point, are you going to wait till PaizoCon or announce before?
It depends if PaizoCon gives us a slot to announce it.
Have we heard if it's in person or online this year?
It's in person.
It's in person, but very, very limited.
500 people.
It was so limited that the number of people who had rollover from the first one that was canceled was greater, and wanted to keep their rollover, I think, was greater than the limit or equal to the limit.
Nice.
So nobody was able to actually get one that didn't.
I'm gonna need to stretch my connections, huh?
I have like
you
10
have a connection
tickets
with Steven. He might have some.
Hey, Steven.
2% of PaizoCon will be rolled for combat, so I can get a ticket like that. I have a lot of connections at Paizo now. What do you know? It's kind of weird how that happened. So much so that I stole their best guy. Now he's with me.
There are a lot of good people at Paizo. I wouldn't say that I'm the best guy at all of Paizo.
I stole a guy.
I will admit that I'm talented. I'm not gonna say that I don't know what I'm doing, but
oh, you don't know what you're doing.
Okay, fine. I don't know anything, Steven. I'm just here. I can just say things and it sounds good.
It sounds good. You say it with
actually look at my Dragons book. It shows that like I built like a lot of PF2, but I didn't understand it when I was building it, and I just put random things into
and
books.
A monkey is like all the monkeys
If
type.
you type me a typewriter for long enough, eventually a new game system will come out.
That's right. It's like that's what he's saying.
It's
new
just
game.
kind of a D20 roll. Let's see what I got. I rolled a 2, so you know.
Right.
There you go. There you go. So I think we have enough. So no, Nat, you did a whole thing on economies and D&D and how amazingly great they are. Tell me more.
You know, you're close. You're close. I just did a quick little 9-minute ramble video yesterday about the D&D magic item pricing guide specifically, and how it is a table with 4 lines of information saying, oh, those boots of elven kind, they're somewhere between 500 and 5,000 gold. You decide. And I hate that. I hate that with a fiery burning passion, especially coming from PF2 or even my D&D 3.5 campaign. There were specific prices for specific things, and it helps a lot for the GMs to be like, you want to buy this? Okay, it's that much, rather than having to balance power with rarity with what you've already charged for other things of similar powers. And it can become this whole rigmarole the farther into the game you get and the higher level magic equipment you start offering. And yeah, I guess just gold in D&D is so enigmatic, and there's not a hard solid value for gold outside of like the basic equipment that's like a gold piece, like a sword.
I mean, yeah, I mean, as I come from a video game background of economies and like World of Warcraft and Diablo, because I used to work with Blizzard a lot, and their entire game is based around these economies. Like, they were very, very careful with those economies, and in fact, they blew up Diablo 3 because they tried to get greedy, where you can buy money, if you remember that, and then
if you. Not all of their economies exactly work, though. I mean, think about Diablo 2.
Oh, no.
Where the gold economy was so busted that the economy became Stones of Jordan randomly. And
this was after Diablo 2.
It was this thing, you need 9 SOJs. It's like gold?
Yep.
No, 9 SOJs.
I was talking about World of Warcraft and Diablo 3. Those are the ones that I remember helping.
Fair enough. But Diablo 2 was, I think, almost
Diablo
a quintessential example of fans coming up with their own economy because they didn't want to use the game's economy.
Even like World of Warcraft and RuneScape, once they started offering the tokens that let you buy a month of subscription with in-game currency, that became its own currency, its own economy.
Well, they call them money sinks. That's what you call them. So they're money sinks because World of Warcraft, the big thing that they always do in that game, and that's why they have mounts and that's why they had the tokens, is they needed to figure out there's a lot of ways to get money into the world, but there's not a lot of good ways to get money out of the world. And you have to come up with money sinks where you literally take money and throw it away. It has to be literally thrown away. It's not money that's given to other people like the auction house. It's money that's taken from you and thrown away, and then you get something back.
If you don't do that, the auction houses get huge inflation over time, and then new players can't buy things on the auction house because auction house is just transferring wealth between so players, and so the amount always increases.
So you need to have money sinks, and WoW has really gotten good with it over the years, especially because it's an organic game. They can just keep adding more cool mounts, more cool things to buy. Like they know, they're like, you want this great mount, 600,000 gold pieces, and they're like, they know how much money they'll get out of the game, and it works because people will throw money away, and it actually keeps the economy fairly decent. I mean, it's not perfect, but most of these aren't, and I think that's the problem. Like the way it's built. So then now you switch to Pathfinder 2. Pathfinder 2. The money sinks are that you need to stay relevant to your level. Like you need a +2 sword at level 10. You need a +2 armor at, level 12, 14. Like you need 11. You need to get your things up. And if you don't, you will start falling behind. So the money sink is that you have to continuously go on the treadmill of upgrading. So that's where your money is going to go. So I feel like in Pathfinder 2, it works very well because your money is always being spent. Like at the end of every game, like when we go through our cash and we're doing one of those money games, we always say, okay, the rest on the gift certificate, because there's like 5 gold left. Like everyone spends every inch of money they have in Pathfinder, which means I think it works really well.
I think that's a good sign, yeah.
Yeah. And Mark, you designed it or helped design it.
Yeah, I did a lot of the modeling for it. I would say that like I was the one who was sent to the spreadsheet making the functions, but there were like the whole team like made choices and decisions that were upper level decisions together, and then they're like, all right, Mark, figure out how to get this to do that thing that we wanted to do. So the reason why the gold economy works pretty well in Pathfinder 2nd edition is that it is roughly mapped to be correspondent to the XP economy in certain ways. And then where it doesn't follow that exactly, it's tweaked on purpose to produce desired effects. So, for example, in the XP economy, right, if you kill one, like, of some arbitrary monster, we'll call it like a Nonatosaurus. If you kill one Nonatosaurus, it's going to be like 60 XP,
worthless,
let's say, compared to your level. And 2 Nonatosaurus is considered to be 120 XP because it's 2 times 60. But if you were 2 levels higher, then 2 Nonatosaurus is 60 XP again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you level up twice, things are worth half as much XP in Pathfinder Second Edition. If you look at it, that's how it goes. And so therefore, in order to get that to map roughly to the gold economy, you want it so that roughly when you level up twice, things are about twice as expensive. It's not exactly that, because at certain levels, the ratio is more favorable to you so that you can like play around more and sell and buy some new things. And at certain levels, it's even less favorable and things get even more expensive, especially at the extremes. But that is like ballpark where it's around is that idea. And that also makes it so that monster drops won't mess up your economy. And D&D and Pathfinder have interesting and different ways of doing that, because in Pathfinder, the way that it's done is that, well, the economy scales about the same as XP. So as long as a monster has an amount that won't throw it off when it's like a boss and it's solo, that means fighting 2 of them when they're the same amount of when that's a boss encounter won't throw it off at that level. Fighting 4 of them when that's a severe encounter won't throw it off 4 levels from then. Fighting 8 of them 6 levels later won't throw it off. In D&D, XP is actually like really, really not correspondent to gold at all, which is something that I learned in great detail when looking through the monster part system for D&D. It was like, you can't actually give an amount of monster parts per monster, because 1 Otyugh is a monster you fight at level 5 in D&D, but 3 Otyughs, and so 1 Otyugh is, like the limit of what you might fight as like a medium encounter when you are like in the starting out heroes, or it might be a weaker encounter for like heroes of the realm or whatever the second tier is. But 3 Otyughs is like the strongest encounter for like heroes of the world just before you get to heroes of the multiverse. And it's like, we're about to become champions of the multiverse. What are we going to fight 3 Otyughs? It's like the value of items that you're supposed to get at those levels, like the higher level items, like you two were saying in the table, is about like 100 and almost 1 level away from being 1,000 times as much, but you're fighting 3 of them. So like, how can you get that to work? And D&D came up with a very clever way to get that to work, because when I first thought about it, I was like, how do they give individual monster awards? And the way they do it is that the amount of gold you get in an individual monster award is almost nothing. And it's so low that it won't throw anything off, because it's just not where the money comes from. It all comes from layer award, or not all, right? That's an exaggeration, but like 90% of it comes from the layer awards, which the GM gives out sporadically, and that gets it to work. So they get the expectations they want by cleverly making the per monster amounts be like almost nothing. And so I found that to be an interesting choice that allowed them to sort of play around with the economy. Now I do see what both of you were saying about it ranges from a ×10 being pretty imprecise though.
Yeah. That's almost the bounded accuracy of the system, just one of the almost unforeseeable drawbacks from that original design style, huh?
Yeah, I mean, even beyond bounded accuracy, I think that the trick of the system is that magic items being optional was sort of a core design principle of 5e, but then nobody plays with it, and so it's thrown off. Not only does nobody play with it, but the adventurers don't really make it optional. They do put them in, and so the system is designed assuming that you won't have them and then you do. So you wind up like you were talking in the bounded accuracy that when we talked about bounded accuracy a few videos with you ago, you were talking about how you're a Battlelord level 20 Battlelord demon couldn't hit your level 12 character, and it was mostly not because of bounded accuracy, although that was a part of it, but it was mostly because
magic items.
You had all these magic items, and like those magic items are what threw it off. So it's a little tricky to talk about. I think they had a really good idea and some very clever ways that they handled certain aspects of it, but that ultimately the design principle of items being optional was not what bore out in actual play, and that came back to possibly bite later on.
So wait, we got a super chat. Oily Right, one of our favorites. £5. What are 5e players expected to spend huge piles of loot on? Basically, what are their money sinks? And
I mean, there is a system to actually buy magic items in the Dungeon Master's Guide, even though it's stated to be optional. It is an optional system to buy magic items, so they could do that.
But don't a lot of people?
If they don't, that they are supposed to buy like castles.
People buy I think
like
castles, and like there's supposed to be like a lot of overland travel and like weird magic. I don't know what people
build
buy.
A mage tower, start
mage towers,
like all that kind of.
I think
there's weird stuff
in chat. Actually, said it earlier. Yeah, property protection. Travel, additional options, probably like bribery, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I know what they did. It goes to the whole philosophy of 5e was made very simple. They hit all the math. They hit most of the tables. Like there's stuff in there, and our 5e team knows it because it was their job to reverse engineer it. So we actually have the maths, and Mark knows the maths. And there is a method to the madness. The problem is if you hide all that, how do you expect anyone to use it? Like, it's like, oh, it's in there and it's like huge ranges. Like, just somewhere, just figure it out.
It's that simplicity creates complexity in obscurity.
Exactly. Ooh. No nats. Say that again. Say that again. We're gonna make a quote.
Simplicity creates complexity in obscurity.
No nat ones.
Put that on a t-shirt while I go to the bathroom.
But hard to use, right?
Right.
That's sort of something that for a playstyle that is less improvisational and wants to like know the rules and apply them. That is a thing that is true about 5e. Is it's much simpler to learn it than to learn Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but it's harder, especially for GMs, to use 5e than Pathfinder 2nd Edition once it is learned. Right?
But back to what you spend your huge piles of loot on. There is a math. Like it's like, let's see. We look at the Battles of Bestiary.
It
where
goes
we
up
actually
by times 10.
It goes up times 10. Yeah.
Every rarity
we
category.
We mapped it for you, so I can tell you what it is.
We mapped it out, but it's
here. It is.
I mean, you can derive it from the Dungeon Master's Guide.
So level 1 is 50 gold approximately. If gear you should have. Level 3 is 300 gold. Level 5 is 1,000 gold. Then it gets a little weird. Level 8. 3,000 gold, level 11, 30,000 gold, and level 17, 300,000 gold. So, voila.
And that was based upon like reverse engineering the random distribution tables of different kinds of items, figuring out roughly how much that meant that someone would find, and then sort of kind of distributing it across the various levels in a
by the way,
smooth way.
We figured out the math. If you ever want to figure it out, Nonat, in our in the Battles of Bestiary, in page 137 of our 5e book, we have a common magic item is 100 gold pieces, and uncommon is 500, rare is 5,000, very rare 50,000, and legendary 500,000.
Yeah, those are the top of the tables.
That's the top of the table. That's actually a good. If you're going to use a guideline, use that.
But then there's an inherent problem that I also mentioned in my video. Beyond the economy of gold prices, there's the economy of power that is also not consistent. I have the pictures here where I have a powerful uncommon item is stronger than a weak rare item.
You're absolutely right. And the value is 10 times higher. I found some that were almost the exact same item in the in the Dungeon Master's Guide, so it wasn't even across multiple books, and one was uncommon and one was rare.
Yeah, the example that I think really screams this loud is the uncommon boots of Elvenkind give you advantage on stealth just forever. Whereas the rare Mace of Smiting gives you +7 damage only on natural 20s, not even on critical hits for like a champion fighter, only on 20s. And that's just not
Their magic items are a total mess, man. I don't know what to tell you.
That's about it. From Gina B. We should do it since this is super chat.
Yes,
it is.
NPC loot used to throw off suggested wealth by level the most in 3.5 and Pathfinder first. That and looting a dead PC. How do current systems deal with these? So in D&D, the way that you deal with it is that they just don't, like, magic items are not assumed. So the NPCs might not have them. Like the amount that you find on a personally on a creature is on a table, and it's a small amount of coin. In Pathfinder 2nd edition, the way that that's dealt with is you look at the safe item level listing in creating creatures. That has been determined for you as a value that even if that creature and clones of that creature was the only thing the PCs fought for the entire level, that they would have a safe amount of money. It wouldn't like bust their money. It wouldn't be too much. It could be lower because you can always throw in treasure in other places. And like I mentioned before, because of the fact that the money that you get roughly doubles every 2 levels, and the XP exactly, you have to fight twice as many monsters of the same kind when you're 2 levels higher. That means that if it's a stable amount at level 4, it's a stable amount at level 6 and level 8 when you fight more of them, and so on, like I said before. So Pathfinder 2nd edition just makes sure that it works. And for D&D, you can just sidestep it entirely because you don't have to give them any items.
I know how they handle it is that we used to call those in 3.5 and Pathfinder 1, they're called loot pinatas. So the problem with this actually was for NPCs. So the problem with NPCs is that you had to build them the same way you would build a PC. So if you wanted someone to have all these amazing abilities, you had to give them +3 weapons and +4 armor, and that sucked. So you would kill them, and then now you had that gear. So suddenly your characters would level up and get very powerful very quickly. Hence, loot's pinatas. In I believe 4th edition D&D, they got rid of that, and in 5th edition and Pathfinder 2, they have the loot, but it's usually at this level, like the games we're playing, every monster they're fighting has a +1 weapon of +1 striking. Who cares? These guys are like level 10. Like, oh wow, 50 gold pieces. 50 gold pieces means nothing to them. It doesn't really help.
Nothing. It is that it will give you, if you buy something on the razor's edge of that table.
Right.
And I can look it up. It's table 2-4 safe items. It will be exactly enough that if your whole level was filled with dropping that it won't be too much money.
The other thing they did, and this was the most important thing, is you do not have to build NPCs the same way that you build PCs. That's basically how you fixed it. For example, one of my favorite things that these bad guys seem to always have is this redirect attack ability. It's a reaction where and it's a rogue type thing, where if a PC attacks you and they miss you, they can then use a reaction to have that PC attack another PC standing next to you, and then they have to roll to hit your own PC. And I love when you crit. You're like, oh, you critted against your friend. What's all those special? Like, oh, it's such a great ability. And they're like, well, they're asking, like, well, what's the PC feat for that? I'm like, I don't think there is a PC feat. These are NPC only abilities and special abilities. And that little thing, just by making it that you can build an NPC kind of as a monster and just give them special abilities and special cool things, and you don't have to follow the rules. Like, why is their armor class so high? It is. It's like, well, what are they wearing? I'm like, doesn't matter. That's just the way they're built to have a higher armor class.
If I had a player who wanted to play whatever a 13th level evil circus enemy or whatever you're throwing at them, whose only ability was the ability to do that redirection thing and did not have any of the other class feats, skill feats, ancestry feats that they wanted to, I would consider it, but I tell them they probably have more fun with getting all of their options.
But the
if they're
point
like,
is,
no,
yeah.
my only class is the one with that reaction that redirects people.
The point is that you
That's
can
fine.
give NPCs very cool abilities, and you can even give them no gear, and their armor class and their 2 hit and their saves will be as high as the level they're supposed to be, because the monsters are built on different tables.
You
and
give them
that's what fixed it.
Fewer but very impactful abilities, so that it's easier to run.
And yeah, we talked about that like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Where less is more in monster design.
You're all about the less is more, man. What's going on with you today?
Wait, no, I'm actually most of this has been the opposite, because D&D 5e is the less is more.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
What was that other quote you have? You have all these weird quotes.
Hey, simplicity breeds complexity through obscurity.
God, this is like the Yogi Berra channel with Nonad. It's like all these great quotes he's coming. That's 2 in 1 stream. Guess
Yeah,
right
ask me in 12 hours. I won't remember a single one.
Oh, I didn't remember them even just
Depends
now.
on what's in the thing you're drinking.
Yeah,
water, although now there's nothing. That's why I had to walk away.
Well, so you might remember in 12 hours then.
there you go.
It's not alcoholic.
Oh, it's not the alcohol, Mark. It's whatever's in here. It doesn't retain anything.
Fair enough. Which might be alcohol. You never.
Just sloshing
Your
around.
brain's alcohol. So that's how you fix it. It was one of those. How do you fix it? That's you make monsters have their own
had
tables.
a second part that we didn't get to.
What was it?
What about looting a fallen PC who is rolling a new character? That's going to be a problem in any game. You have to create a social contract about that. So you have a few options. Option 1, the fallen character's stuff is part of your adventuring parties. You know, they probably have a charter, and maybe the adventuring party's charter is that everybody has a last will for their items, and it's used for their funeral and given to their families or a charity of their choice or something like that. And then you tell a little post story. It's like, well, the fighter always wanted to establish a school for warfare, so the party sold their gear, and there's a school for warfare that's a memorial, and it has a statue of them in the front now. Okay. So that's way number 1. Way number 2 is that the new character does not get as much money, and you're just like, yeah, sorry, the group likes to ninja loot all of the dead PCs, and we've lost 6 in the past 2 weeks. So obviously we're going to be way over treasured. So when you roll a new character, we're going to reduce you by the same amount as the cost of a raised dead or whatever, and or to compensate some of the money from the items, because otherwise we're just bringing in 6 PCs worth of items, and now the party has over double. So, and the third way is you can just not care. That depends on the system. Because in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, like we've been saying, it roughly doubles every 2 level. If you do have 6 PCs die in your 6-person group over the course of 2 weeks, then they will have double their money that they should. But some of them will be things that are sold, so you'll lose, right? Because like Steven said, you only need so many +1 striking weapons. And so you'll lose some of that extra. And by the time you get a few levels up in Pathfinder 2, it's whatever. That right? It's not, you don't have that much more money anymore. Like if you did that at level 6 and then by level 12 the extra money you have isn't that relevant. So that's a way to do it. If you have a system where the money is linear, or at least closer to linear than it is in PF2, you're going to have more issues.
So we got a mega chat. It's not even a super.
Mega.
That's mega.
So
Cheese
mega.
of ages, $20. So we get a nice big answer. How do you even design a role-playing system without money sinks? Characters adventure for variety of reasons, but half of the reason players play RPGs is progression. Having only one of the normal 2 kinds is weird in long-term style games. So yeah, we actually, real quick, is that we're talking about money, but they're correct in that you have XP, you have progression of the characters, you have feats, you have abilities, and obviously money, and then you have items. So there actually are multiple systems. The thing about money is that money ties into a lot of these systems. So that's why it's important that you get that one right. Because
and I assume Cheese of Ages is talking about D&D likes.
Probably.
Because
Yes.
obviously there's a lot of tabletop RPGs that don't have money sinks or money.
Yeah,
And
I was
Yeah.
gonna
just like,
mention something like the Marvel games, like the new one,
Yeah.
the new one or the old ones. Superheroes. I mean, sure, you might be able to make like a chaotic superhero who does extort their saving people and getting paid for it, but I don't think there's much, if any, like money system in those games. At least not linked to progression. You might be like buying houses or groceries or whatever.
Right.
The other idea when it comes to D&D or Pathfinder is the, like, if you're a very much a lawful good, everyone's on like a crusade for a deity who just can't accept money, refuses money, or is even opposed to the capitalistic tendencies and corruption money can bring, you could write an entire adventure where the party does not use money in any way, but rather could take like offerings of items or just find what they get off of bodies. But yeah, it is tough to imagine an RPG in the D20 fantasy style without some kind of currency economy. Because I think even if they didn't have money and they just had magic items, they would still likely trade those magic items for other things if given the opportunity.
Well, remember,
Yeah, and I mean, let's even consider a world where there is no trading or money, right? And we replace everything with personal upgrades that like the horde system in Dragons, Battles of Ancestral Dragons, but without the gold even. So it's just like, oh, you get all your feats, and then also part of your reward for this battle is I'm giving you well, I don't know what kind of points we'll call them. We'll call them ascension points. You get 50 ascension points, and they're basically just gold pieces that you use to buy monster parts adjustments or automatic bonus progression bonuses, right? And let's say you can't sell them back in that version. So it's sort of not a money economy. It's just another way to progress. So I mean, you could do it. It just depends on how many levers and how many ways to progress you want. But people like making money.
True.
and what I was going to say is that it's tied into the game because I believe D&D very, very, very first edition, like before even Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So the gold was your XP. So that's how this is why this is like this. So you always have to look back to the beginning. So when D&D first came out, gold was converted into XP. So you needed gold. That's how you leveled up, was using your gold. So because of that is in its like DNA, gold has always been part of D&D and Pathfinder because it's such an intricate part of the game. You can remove it. Like if you do automatic level progression, like Mark said, where your weapons and gear just go up automatically, you don't even need gold. Like not really. I mean, you might need it a little bit to buy like consumables, but you can probably slash the gold to like 1/10 of what you need.
You could even get rid of consumables, like if you wanted to. You could do something that was like Dark Souls Estus Flask-esque, where it was just like every day when the sun rises, your internal alchemy of your body produces like X number of consumable effects.
Honestly, a reusable health potion actually sounds like a really cool magic item.
Yeah.
As you level up, just gets more charges and gets
the
better.
wand.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but you can't drink a wand, Steven.
Well, you could.
Well,
you
there
just
you go.
put it
You
into a
make drinkable
blender.
Wand. It's a wand that it has like a big
Reservoir
at the end
Sure.
of the wand, and then the
it's like
spoon fills up
drinking.
with soup, and then you drink. The
Yeah,
soup.
you drink from the. That's actually it. It's a wand, and then one end is like a soup spoon, and then what you do is you have to pour something into it like a straw, and then drink out, and the liquid going through gets magical and heals you.
Oh, actually, along that, it's
Or
actually
you just make it a straw. The magic straw.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, if
With
like,
a
if
straw.
like a classic wand with like a star at the end, but the star is covered in little like holes. At the end, at the other end, it's like hollow. So you stick the star in water, and if you drink through the wand, it becomes a healing potion. That's a cool
straw.
idea. That's the sippy straw.
That's actually good. The sippy straw.
I actually love that.
And then it's like I'm taking out my magic straw, and he brings it out. It's got like all these like twirls and like sprinkles on it. He's like, "That's your healing straw?" Yes. And it's like a big fighter. He's like sipping through it, like
Sticks
going
in his
through.
water skin.
Like it's like he's like, "You look so silly." He's like, "Yes, but it gives me strength." That is a good
go.
magic item. I have to steal that. Put that in Indigo Isles, Mark.
Oh.
So we're at the halfway point, more or less. Let's talk about two things. First, we're gonna preview the Orpork. I always call them Orpork. Orpak.
You always want to say pork because
pork
being a food.
I know it's Orpak, the Orpak ancestry, which are fun ancestry. I might be my favorite, but hey, Nona, what's this Kickstarter you've been talking about for months?
What? Well, it's actually the Sinclair's Library Kickstarter, which is going live on May 3rd.
Right.
Next Tuesday, it will be live, including the two books, the Sinclair's Codex and the Sinclair's Almanac. The Codex designed for GMs with over 150 NPCs already written out, ready for you to take them out of the book, put them right into your world. We're talking stat blocks, names, information, plot hooks, and illustrations for every single NPC in that book.
Wait,
there's over 150. Does each one have a different favorite Pokemon?
What?
Probably not. There might be some overlaps, you know?
Oh.
There's a fire sorcerer and a blacksmith. Maybe they both like Charizard.
All right, fair enough.
Okay. And what's a cursed archetype? What is that? That sounds horrible.
A cursed archetype, it's not necessarily a good thing. So a cursed archetype
can't wait to play with it.
Well, so it's designed to be very story focused. A cursed archetype is something like lycanthropy or corruption or others that we haven't leaked yet, but those two have been written out and play tested. We've gotten some great feedback, but they are archetypes that level up with you, and as you take more feats from the archetype, you are embracing the curse itself. You are acquiring more powers. If you're suffering from lycanthropy, maybe if you take the feats, you'll gain a claws strike or a jaws strike. But you'll gain a weakness to silver, or you'll start looking visibly more beast-like and off-putting, giving you penalties to other things. So you can choose to find a priest or a cleric and attempt to remove this curse from you. You can try to balance it alongside everything without giving it too much power, or you can go all out, take as many feats as you can, because a recurring theme in the cursed archetypes are feats that give you a bonus based on the number of feats from that archetype you have. We've seen a few things like that in some of the other PF2 archetypes, namely, I want to say the HP feats do that for some of the class archetypes, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so I think one of the ones, I think it's the claws strike for the lycanthropy is it'll deal whatever 1d6 plus strength mod, and then it'll deal +1 status bonus to damage for every lycanthropy feat you have. But that same feat might come with a drawback saying you have weakness 1 to silver increased by 1 for every lycanthropy feat you have. So the more you embrace it, the more you gain and the more you lose. There's also an entire manifestation system with the cursed archetypes, where if a certain thing happens, say a full moon comes out and you fail your saving throw, you might lose control of yourself and your allies will need to help corral you, hold you down, knock you unconscious, what have you. It's not like an every session kind of thing. In fact, it should be pretty rare, all things considered. But, it's a curse. Things can go haywire.
So
I really appreciate that you said Jaws strike, because I had to deal. I mean, like in the RPG Superstar contest, many more of the entrants said bite instead of Jaws than actually got it correct.
Are there no bite attacks?
You can't have attacks that are a verb. They have to be a noun, and you got it right.
Interesting.
You said Jaws.
Yeah.
They have to be a noun. They're not slam. They're
right.
like
Yeah.
body or
I never
or
noticed
head
that.
or something like that. It's always the name of the thing that the strike is.
Well. You learn something new every day.
Good work.
Yeah, definitely all me, not my design team helping me out every single step of the way.
They're just behind you with like these puppet strings, just
basically, making me dance, talk about it. No, it's like 5 of us, and depending on how well the Kickstarter goes, we're going to get more and more people on board. Obviously, a bigger team depending on the success. So yeah, May 3rd, it's going live. You'll be able to support it, and we are really, really excited to see what happens.
Keep delaying it. You get like 10 more episodes out of me from this.
No. This is the first and only time we've given a definitive, publicly announced date. There was reasons we danced around an official date before, but now
You're
it's out
making
there.
fun of him with his delays in official date, but Steven, you gave estimated dates for things that we did not.
Global
meet the
shipping
original estimated
crisis.
date.
Global
Yeah, I know,
shipping
but you did.
crisis.
You gave estimated dates, and then we
Global
had to
shipping
pull
crisis.
back.
What can I do? I can't do
There wasn't
anything about
you
that.
could do. I'm just saying.
It's like we're literally printing in Shenzhen, and I literally see the news. They're like, "Oh, the city of Shenzhen is closed for a week, the whole city," and I'm like, "Okay, it's literally nothing I can do." It's like
I don't know. See, that sounds like a lot of excuse.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
I'm not saying it's your fault.
Anyhow.
I'm saying that it's the pot calling the kettle black. I think both of you are fine.
fine and free, fancy free. Well, this one for our next Kickstarter, I learned my lesson. To be fair, I can go into it. The only reason I did the Kickstarter is because Paizo didn't go to Gen Con. So I was like, oh crap, how are we going to sell the books? Because we're going to sell them at the Paizo booth. And now no one's going to Gen Con, so we did Kickstarter. So I was a little behind. But the new one, we started on that months ago. And in fact, I already have artwork. I got logos. I have the printers printing things right now, so we're going to be far ahead of the next Kickstarter this summer. So
I honestly wonder, because before I did any of this Kickstarter stuff, it almost looks like a Kickstarter is, oh, I'll put some pretty pictures up and write some text and put it on Kickstarter and people will buy it. No, there is so much pre-work that goes into like me and my team. Beyond, like, not counting like just the idea and coming up with what we want to do and how we want to do it, there's been no less than 10 months of constant marketing, hiring people, getting things on board, getting third parties on board, getting cool ideas and whatever cemented, all to make this happen. And we're a small scale project. I can't imagine some of these more massive Kickstarters.
Yeah, well, ours is turning into one of those. Well, the first one was literally just me. I mean, it was me and Mark, and that was it.
And I wasn't even on full time until, I mean, partway through, you hired me to help fulfill it.
Yes.
But when you started, you were the only one.
I did
who
everything.
Had to do all of that behind the scenes stuff. That was
but this is also my
ridiculous amount of
background,
effort.
so it was like I did a leg up. It was the people you would hire. Known that is like me, like you hire me, and so I did have experience on it, so it wasn't too bad. But the new one. We have a. I have a team.
Be amazing.
I have a big
we have
team.
all of your skills, and I have a few ideas just from game design on how to make some of the flow of certain things that are in it be even cooler. And then you've learned from the first one, Steven, and you've told me some really, really good ideas. So I think the second one is going to be even better.
And well, it was on purpose because this is like, not to quote the real one, but the new Kickstarter is what I really was been thinking about for years. And you'll see. And we're doing stuff no one's ever done. Like I know people say that, like, how's that possible? Trust me, you'll see. We're doing stuff no one's ever done on Kickstarter, which is impossible because like everything's been done on Kickstarter. Not everything.
I do firmly believe your first Kickstarter is always going to just be 80% a learning experience.
Yeah.
You're going to do so many things wrong.
Yeah.
So.
It wasn't even the only thing I had said we quote. It's not that we did it wrong. Is that
I guess inefficiently.
I underestimated time. But then also. But I made up for it. Like, we made up for it by making everything bigger. So it's like, it took longer, but you got more for it. I could have made it on time, and the Dragon Book would have been half the size. Or the Jewel of the Indigo Isle would have been a third the size. So I'm like, it's taking longer, but you're getting more for it. In fact...
Jewel's word count is... Each section is 3 times as long or longer than the amount of words that Steven told the authors that it was.
And I'm still getting artwork.
He exaggerates numbers sometimes, but he is dead serious about that.
Well, and then for the artwork, I'm still getting new artwork. I just put in more artwork today for Jewel of the Indigo Isle. I will keep asking and getting artwork until publication. So I'm literally scraping the bottom of the barrel, like, what haven't I have got an artwork for? And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, I missed one character. Bingo,
yes,
let's put him in
NPC
there.
Was named on page
I gotta put him in.
592.
Actually,
it's not have a piece of
not
art.
Every NPC. I'd say all the main NPCs.
Not 592 pages.
No, but all the main NPCs have pictures, and all like the secondary NPCs. There are like the
Even some of the
tertiary.
monsters that are basically also in Battles of Bestiary
Yeah.
have a new piece of
Yes.
art that contextualizes
Yep.
them for
Mhm.
the way they're encountered in the adventure
Yeah.
instead of just relying on the Bestiary art.
I got 2 new pieces today from I won't say who, but basically I went to the same artist who did the art in Battles of Bestiary, and I said, "Oh, can you literally redo your monster in a new way?" And I literally just got 2 pieces while we're talking.
That is something that, as a consumer, makes me so giddy when I see art of a creature I read in a separate book like appear in an adventure. It just makes the whole system feel more cohesive. I love that.
So speaking of artwork, new ancestry, the Orpak.
Whoa!
Look at them.
Whoa.
They're awesome. I love these guys.
Like Orpak. I like them more than I expected I was going to like them, which is a common thing that playtesters have said. Ron Lundeen did a great job as the freelancer on this one. And like I was like, okay, pig people, that's fine. But when I saw what Ron did, I really like them now.
Yeah.
Is she doing like food magic over there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what food is a huge deal for them. Because I'll tell you just a little tiny bit about their backstory, which is that the Orpaks that are on the Indigo Isles came on these like ships from very far away, and they were on a journey of exploration that was so long that with their lifespans that are not super long, multiple generations were born on the ships and did not remember like the place that they came from. And the ships each had like some parts of their culture, but a bunch of them got wrecked or something, and the ones who made it here had like cooking and a few other things. So as far as they're concerned, cooking is what they know. And it's a huge part of, it's a bigger part of their culture than it even originally was, because they have all the information about cooking from like many generations ago.
So food and cooking is a big part of the ancestry and the culture. And they even have, there's an Oliphancer, which is like they have such strong ability to smell that they can actually cast magic and use their abilities as part of their nostrils and their smelling. So it's a lot of food. They eat like 7 meals a day. There's a whole section about how they have different, I won't get into it, but you do find out a lot about the food and the different restaurants they have in the Orpak towns. You find out about their culinary habits. You even see some of their cookbooks. Like, we really go into it like pretty heavily in the adventure and in the ancestry. And one of the things I like about it is that they can be relatable to everyone because everyone eats.
True.
So Dark Magician asked for $2. Any reason why the first one has 4-fingered hands? They all have 4-fingered hands, actually. 1, 2. Oh, one of them only has 5. Big mistake. Supposed to be 4. So it's actually the same artist, so I will have him fix it. I think we're actually pretty careful with that. Like, I actually tell the artist how many fingers to give them, and I think they were supposed to have 3 and a thumb. So I'll tell him that he messed up, or maybe they lost a finger in a battle. Who knows? But
Or gained a finger in a battle.
or gained a finger.
Grafted on.
1, 2,
Grafted it on.
3.
It's like, well, it's a juggler, so she wanted to have additional fingers.
Yeah, when
to
I put
help
out
juggle.
the art requests, I do note the number of fingers, and that does come in. And these all 3 of these are done by the same artist, so I will speak to them and say, "Fix the fingers."
And that, because you don't want them to give you the finger that you don't want.
That's right.
So tell them not to give you the finger.
And by the way, we do have different artists interpret them because there are ancestries. Like, they shouldn't all look the same. I mean, these guys obviously don't look anything. I mean, they're similar, but very different.
Have pretty similar head shapes.
The
to
heads,
each other.
the head shapes
like,
are pretty
in the
similar.
range of pigs, they could be more different, but their self-expression in their outfits and just their faces are very, very different in what they're carrying.
Yeah, and like to combine how different feet, leg shapes. That's what happens when you know, like I try to keep it sort of consistent, but at the same time, it's hard to actually like keep all of the ancestries, especially when you're doing non-human or like non-human ancestries. It's like, you know, I tell them and they're like, okay. And then you get the art back and they completely ignore you. And they're like, hey, okay, fix it. Okay. And then they don't fix it. I'm like, oh God, all right, whatever.
You know, you ordered 8 fingers and you got 10 for the same price.
Yeah, there you go.
5 fingers.
That's a great deal.
It is a good deal. It is a good deal. Too bad I can't do anything with those fingers. But so anyhow, that's the Orpok. And they will be a new ancestry if you order Indigo Isles. You're going to get a lot because you got 7 new ancestries and heritages, I think. 7.
If you count the heritages that are for old ancestries,
yes,
then I think so. It's at least
7.
6.
I think it's 7 because the
7,
8,
and that's not counting the dragon.
Dragon is 8. The dragon is the 8th.
Yeah.
And these are
I knew it was
full
7. I couldn't remember if that was
ancestries.
counting the dragon or not. Because you've got Gamayun, Orpok, Hardrigan, Tochori, Cragrak, and then the Galtsagori for Sprite and the Wildfire Leshy for Leshy are the 2 heritages. So yeah, 7 plus dragon, 8.
Yeah.
Cool.
So and
dragon
then
is so big. You can't
oh, dragon is something. But I will say these ancestries we all do. So here's a little known thing. Some of them are long ancestry, some are short. So if ancestries don't have a 17th level feat, which some don't, that's quote the short ancestries.
In Paizo.
In Paizo.
So in Paizo, the ancestries are by standard length 4 pages, right?
Okay.
That's how many pages they typically get in a new product.
Correct.
Or in core rulebook. That got expanded to 6 partially because I pushed to make them longer because I didn't think they were long enough in a lot of places. And we even managed to get 8 pages for Automaton and Guns of Gears due to some.
And how long are they for us?
For us, they're always at least 10.
As long as they need to be.
The space that I wanted ancestries to
that's
have,
right.
so that they will always have enough feats that you have them at all the levels. You have choices, even if you don't have the prerequisites. Plenty of lore so that you know about the ancestry and you don't have to cut the lore to make the feats fit. And all of our ancestries are. Now, the ones that we have that are shorter and that are not because it's a ancestry that we're doing short trip to, it's because they're heritage.
Yeah. Heritages are like 4 pages.
Heritages themselves don't have to have 5 heritages because they're 1 heritage.
Yeah.
And they get all the feats from the ancestry that aren't that heritage, so they only need a few feats. So they're a lot shorter, the ones that are just heritage.
Janet B asked, no, they're 5,000 words. So all of our ancestries are at least 5,000 words.
Yeah, they're around 5,000 words.
Not 3,000, which is longer.
Meat. 3,000 is
about a
closer
heritage
to what a Paizo ancestry would have.
Yeah, we make ours meaty. Everything here is meaty. And
the Orpoks do it too.
Yeah. And then the someone asked, are the books going to be available? The books are going to be available forever. Like as long as I'm
around. You want
the
online version, right? Yeah, because you only are going to print a certain number of the physical version, unless
we sell out and then we do a second printing.
Okay. I didn't even know you were considering a second printing.
Oh yeah, we'll do a second printing. Well, I'm hopefully going to bring a whole bunch of these books to Gen Con and hopefully sell them at the Paizo booth. And
last I heard
they should go pretty
fast. That you printed everything that was needed plus some amount of extra. That was going to be it.
Yes, I printed basically. I print an extra X amount for just to have them, but it's not too bad to do a second printing. But I bet it
would help to do a second printing if we had some of those books like queued up to be like an extra reward for a new Kickstarter as you get this plus our older books, because then you would know you had enough for a second printing without losing money on the more expensive
Well, that was the thing Eric Mona said. Eric's like, don't overprint. So I was like, okay.
Paizo has learned that lesson.
Just gonna write that down.
Do not overprint, because if you overprint, you can turn. You can pull a failure from the jaws of success, right?
Yeah.
That's a way to take
tempting.
Everything that you was going to be a massively successful event and just turn it into lost money from books you didn't sell. You not have to hold on to. You need warehouse space because your apartment's not going to hold them all.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how. Yeah, we have a warehouse for distribution, all that stuff. And the thing is, Even like where your warehouse is located, because like mine's on the West Coast, and it's easier if it's on the West Coast because everything comes from China and from the West Coast. So you'd be amazed all these things. I think we should have how to run a Kickstarter with Steve and Nona.
You
I
know,
probably
that would
could.
be decent. That could pick up people who weren't just in D&D and
I
Pathfinder.
know.
And you have the
I
skills,
learned- I
Steven.
know, I
People would be
know.
interested in it.
I learned a
Give
lot.
me 2 months so that my
You're-
Kickstarter can actually end, and then if it fails, you don't want me on.
It's not gonna fail. You're not gonna fail.
I don't think it's going to fail.
Thank you.
Just like when you said it's 80% of learning experience and you mess things up, you'll mess them up so they're not the optimal, but there's still
Yeah.
not,
You won't
that
mess
doesn't
it
mean
up
it's
that
gonna be
bad.
a failure.
You won't mess it up that bad.
I'm
Don't
sure
overestimate
you'll
me,
hit your
Steve.
initial goal. You just might not get quite as much over it as
Yeah.
you would have if you
Yeah.
had, if
Yeah,
you
but-
had the hindsight that was 2020 of
Mhm.
every mistake.
Yeah, the PDFs are available forever. The Foundry, the VTTs are always going to be available. And then as for the books, what I'll probably do is we'll see how it sells, and then when we do the next Kickstarter and we're printing up books, you do get discounts if you print everything together and ship them together. The more you do together, the cheaper it gets. So if anything, I would do second printing is easy because I literally just give them a file, or I can say print the same thing, change these 3 pages.
Yeah, it's
Go.
not hard. It's just
It's very
potentially
easy.
risky if you don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
if you don't have a solid source of it. Like,
Yeah.
for example, a later Kickstarter that has hey, this is the tier for people who want to dredge back into our past and get all the older ones
Mhm.
too, or
Yeah.
something like that, so that you have certain amount that's stable.
And also
'Cause
keep in
that's
mind,
what subscriptions do for Paizo.
yeah,
right?
you have
They
to
give
print.
you a certain amount that they know they're going to sell, so that they don't risk quite as much about
Yeah.
not selling any.
And you have to print at least 1,000 books. I mean, you can print
Yeah.
less than that, but there's no point.
Even
Like,
if you print only 1,000, doesn't the price go up a lot more than if you
well,
print?
that's the thing. That's where it
More than
gets
that.
tricky, is because 2,000 books could be half the price per book.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
and then you're like, ooh, and once you get up to like 5,000 books, the books really get you, like they get really cheap at the
And
4,000 or
given that
5,000.
you are paying for the most expensive version that this
Yes.
company makes, that is the
Yes.
same one Paizo uses, and they don't use the most expensive. Yours is like
Ooh.
twice as much.
It's twice as
Saving
much.
half on the book is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, but I'm not printing that many. I printed.
Yeah, know,
I didn't print
know. I'm just
5,000.
saying
Trust
it would be
me.
a pretty big deal.
Because I got to print them twice too. Got to
Yeah,
print 1,500, 1,000, 2,000 for 5e, and
Saving
for-
half on the books is
yeah.
a big deal, but then if you print twice as many as you need and you're sitting around holding those other half,
You make it
it's
up
much
in
worse.
volume. That's how we have
It's
to do
much
it.
worse.
Volume. So back to the subject. So I will tell you, and what do you think of this, Mark? So I love
Okay.
Starfinder,
Okay.
except the economy is broken. I don't know why you guys made it that everything sells back for 10% instead of 50%. Why?
Well,
Why?
there were a lot of competing requirements on Starfinder, and the requirements on Starfinder that were needed were unfortunately forced a very low sellback rate, which, to be fair, in real life, if you go to half price books and try to
Well,
sell
this isn't real
some of your
life.
books
It's
there,
a
you're not
game.
going to get 50%.
You know, in
for
real
them,
life,
so-
when I'm trying to like buy a plasma rifle, I mean,
yeah, I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that I've seen that are about realism of selling for lower, and that's not the issue. The issue is it doesn't necessarily feel good.
it
to
doesn't
sell
feel
for
good.
such a low value because
No one
you feel like
cared.
you want to save up instead of
Right.
actually buying things because you'll get so little of the value back.
Yeah.
I did hear that.
To be clear, I'm not even saying it's good. I think it's not good. that
No, I
you
think
sell
it's
back for
bad because
10%.
we were
But
playing
it
it.
was
People didn't
it was
care.
a necessary requirement because
Hmm.
of the fact that there were certain. Remember how I was talking about 5e had a design principle early on that magic items were not going to be necessary or included, and then unfortunately the actual play is that they are included, so it throws things off a little bit. Starfinder had a lot of competing design requirements, one of which was that it needed to have certain compatibilities
Hmm.
with Pathfinder, which turned out to not really matter. And those affected the math, but those also affected the fact that the NPCs, even though they're built differently, they have to, it was just like, it was a hard, they had to have the same weapon. And whenever we asked, like, can they just have a different weapon but still do the same damage?
Mhm.
right? Can they have a weaker weapon? No, they had to have the same weapon. So it actually goes back to the question we answered like multiple super chats ago from Gina B. How do you deal with when you kill NPCs and it throws off your money? And we didn't give Starfinder's answer, but that is Starfinder's answer. The problem was that the Starfinder NPCs were being forced to drop in large quantities these weapons that were so valuable that like when you killed 20 mooks, if you sold them for a half, you would just suddenly have like 5 times as much money as you were supposed to have. And that's where it came. The sell price wound up having to be very low because of that reason.
And I've heard that Starfinder, especially from a lore perspective, is much more economically driven. Like, so
there kind of is that, but the bottom line for the sell is that it is entirely coming from the fact that the NPCs and the mooks and the enemies were forced to have weapons. Like if you wanted them to do 5d12 with a plasma rifle, they had to have the one that did 5d12, which was always very expensive.
Yep.
Whereas in PF2, right, if you look at the kind of weapons that you're giving out, because money progresses kind of similarly, Starfinder has a good money like overall like price progression that would help. But if you look at that table that I was telling us to look at before, I think I lost my Nethys window on there.
2.2-6, I believe.
Yeah, that one, the 2-6 table that said like which items are safe to give. Or it's not quite 2-6 because apparently 2-6 is saving throws.
2-4.
What?
2-4, I think.
2-4. Let me see. Yeah, so if you look on 2-4, right? At level 8, you're giving them a +1 striking weapon. That's 4 levels after the PCs. That's a big deal because we know that roughly that means that it is worth 1/4 as much, right? So a quarter times a half is an eighth. So it's kind of like the thing you got from the NPC is selling for close to 10%. Not really 10%, right? It's selling for half, but it's selling for close to 10% of what your weapon is.
You know what the problem with Starfinder was?
Starfinder, you have to give the NPC your weapon.
Right.
And therefore, to get a value that is not obscenely half of your weapon, like you fight 8 mooks, each of which is holding your same weapon, and then you sell them, and you get 4 times the price of your best weapon. You wind up having to give it a lower percentage. So if you want to run Starfinder with a different economy than that, then you need to basically relax the monster creation rules so that the NPCs can just be like, okay, they're using the weaker plasma rifles, but they still do the damage from the stronger plasma rifle, and that's okay.
That is the number one way to fix all, like, any system that uses the same rules for monsters and NPCs will fall into this, period. That's just because loot pinata, like that's why the loot, you just can't do it. And I don't care how much the PCs complain, it's not realistic, blah blah blah. It's like, well,
Starfinder found a way around it, but the way around it was that you had to sell for a very low amount,
right? And that's
certain unsatisfying interactions where you're always feeling like, maybe I can skip this upgrade.
Well, the biggest problem,
when I sell it, I'll lose.
No, the biggest problem with that is also that there's a lot of grenades and consumables that are very expensive, that are very cool, that you will never use in Starfinder, because it's like, I'm not buying a grenade for 300,000 credits and then throwing it away. It's just not worth it.
Well, that's a separate issue.
That is a separate issue.
The sell for 10% actually helps grenades.
I disagree.
Because
I disagree.
I would say the sell for 10% helps consumables, because the
what? Because then you want to use them
to using a consumable and selling it, and when you can only sell it for 10%,
yes, you're correct.
If the GM drops it, you're more likely to use it.
You're correct.
That's a big if.
But it also hurts.
Yeah, it is a big
it also
if.
assumes that the GM has to change all the loot, because the way I run the adventure paths is that I just drop whatever loot they have, so that if it doesn't match up, like if you're dropping wizard loot and they're like fighters, okay, fine, they go and they sell it, they get the fighter gear. In Starfinder, you can't do that. Like, you have to drop loot that corresponds to their classes. Otherwise, like, great, now what? I get this great gear that is totally useless and sells for 10%. They literally just throw it away. It's like, there's no point in even carrying it around. So you have to go in and change up the gear to make sure it adheres or like works with the character classes. So, I mean, there is no perfect system, except maybe Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I do think it's pretty damn good. And then you have the rarity system, which we didn't even get into, which is freaking fantastic. I
do
love
think
the rarity
PF2 still
system.
struggles a little bit from overpriced consumables, just a little.
A little.
So I think that this is another example of the thing we were talking about before with Monk's Stunning Fist.
Yeah.
Which is that PF2's consumables are both overpriced and underpriced.
Really?
Well, sort of. The thing about them is, the issue about them is that because of the fact that because of the doubling, right, that happens very quickly, because there's not a mechanic like playtest resonance that limits the number of consumables you can use, consumables quickly become almost no cost. And some of them have an ability and value that scales without, if it doesn't do damage or heal hit points by a certain amount, it usually is something that scales. Like if you have a consumable that does Frightened 2, like that's equally fine at any level.
But doesn't the DC only scale on higher versions?
Well, it depends on what consumable we're talking about here, right? Let's for scrolls, they use your DC.
Okay.
And especially if it's something that doesn't have a DC at all, for instance, a buff, that is like heroism. That is going to be equally good at any level. And so the problem I think that people have with consumables is that, let's suppose that consumables were exactly the same as they currently are. But this makes the game more complicated, so that's why this wasn't done.
Sure.
But all of their levels were 4 higher. But there was a rule that said you can craft consumables and find them in stores that are up to 4 levels higher than you. So it was like you can, because the thing about them is, if you get a consumable that is equal to your level, that absolutely is a very expensive thing to be throwing around at exactly your level, because it's like the top most powerful spell that you can have for a scroll, right? But a few levels later, it's not that big a deal.
No.
It in fact eventually becomes almost no cost. Like if your level high level party wanted to buy 275 scrolls of heroism, that would be a 3rd level heroism, that'd be fine. Like that, it wouldn't even dent your money at that point.
That's fair.
So it's actually, consumables become an issue in the opposite direction with when it comes to scaling. In all the ways that PF2 made permanent items great, makes it so that consumables wind up becoming, if they are evergreens, becoming like very, very strong for their levels. And there are ways around it. Like resonance in playtest was actually a very clever solution that Logan came up with, that I still like it in
Which
a lot of ways.
everybody hated.
But everyone in the playtest didn't like it. I've seen some people.
Well,
I
liked
appreciate
resonance.
this. I really appreciate this because most people won't admit this on the internet. Who
I
was
like
on the internet
resonance.
was like, and this person was like, I was one of the people in the playtest who complained about resonance the most. But now that I've played the game for a long time, instead of just playtesting it for a little, I realized that it was actually did something.
How did
good.
resonance work? Like you had to tune with the items or something? I forgot.
Resonance, it had the investiture on your permanent items, but you also had a limited number of consumables you could use each day, basically.
Right.
Oh. See, that makes sense to me,
Yeah,
honestly,
and if you
because
do
your body
that-
can only take so much. You can't just take an infinite number of pills.
And it also
exactly.
it
But
also
people didn't want that, even though you can't just take an infinite number of pills. In fact, potions, which are the most like pills, they were the most negative against. It's like, what if I drink a healing potion but I run out, I won't heal me? That would make people very, very angry. And
plus,
so it actually is great because it allows you to lower the price of consumables and increase the amount of stuff it does, because you can't just stockpile up low level consumables anymore. Has a lot of benefits. But when you don't have that, consumables are always going to be very expensive when they first appear, and then very inexpensive, but in many cases still powerful later on, in a way that makes them so that they're kind of only at a Goldilocks just right at like a very particular level range. So you identified something awkward in the system for sure, Donut.
It also used charisma, which I think was the first time ever charisma was tied to something.
Yeah, it did. Resonance charisma modifier.
No, it used charisma. It's because every ability score was tied to something, And so that was charisma. I think it was a combination of that. People didn't like that you had to then use charisma to use magic items because charisma is everyone's dump stat. So they're like, oh man, I don't want to like use like, it was like, great. Not only is charisma a dump stat for nearly everyone, but now it's an important stat. So I think it was the double whammy of like no one wanted charisma to be used for anything.
So Cheese of Ages has a complaint in 2E that crafting takes too long for especially for the lower level items. I'm guessing. Any recommendations to speed it up without affecting the economy too much? My answer is use the playtest rule or something similar where if you craft an item that is lower level than the maximum item you can craft, that takes fewer than 4 days. That was purely removed from the final version due to complexity.
I have a better idea.
And so, is your idea use the monster parts?
Use the monster parts system. That's exactly my idea.
That's what I usually say, and I know that I've said it before on Reddit multiple times
Fixes
when people
everything.
ask this. But Cheese of Ages was not asking for a replacement, was asking how to specifically to speed it up without affecting the economy. And the answer is if items that are lower than your maximum level item take fewer than 4 days, it doesn't affect the economy. And it's the reason why is the same reason that we were mentioning before, right? If an item that's 2 levels lower than you is about half the value, then if it takes 2 days to make it, then right, you made about the same amount of value in 4 days by making 2 things that were half the value. So you can absolutely go back to a playtest style version. It will not throw off the balance. In fact, it will make it more balanced for making lower level than your maximum level items. If you do that.
The go-to homebrew I do doesn't make it take necessarily less in-game time, but I will allow my players who are crafting. I basically remove the downtime trait. During their either daily preparations or before they go to bed, they just say, I work on this. And then after 4 in-game days, even if it wasn't downtime, they finish their crafting. Because my games especially don't have a lot of downtime. It's very go.
No, none of my games. My games have 0 downtime.
Exactly.
0.
Yeah,
I like things that'll do bestiary monster parts work too, where you don't need downtime.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
and that was a big part because my games, I'm very much. I use the clock. That is the number one way to keep games going, and I have everyone on the clock always, constantly. Hell, the Indigo Isles Adventure Pet, the whole thing is on the clock. Like, you have to keep going. You have to keep moving fast and forward. And
there's a few points where you could stop.
There's
and
a
take
few on purpose,
but
because
they're not a lot.
Yes, I always have a few because you do want a little bit of breathing room, but even then, it's like you get a week. And that's it, to like retrain or something. That's it, and then you got to keep going.
So there was another super chat that we can do really quick.
Derek
from Knights of Let's Call said, greetings from the oasis of the seas off the coast of Mexico. I'll watch the replay later. Hi,
is that
Derek.
one of the Carnival Cruise Line boats?
Probably. He was on a cruise. Derek has been our alternate Nonat. We basically have Derek and Nonat, Derek and Nonat. We have to have both of you guys on because then Mark and I can just go to sleep because you guys will talk the whole time.
Yeah.
It's very talkative people. But actually,
hey, Steven, you and I are very talkative.
You and I don't shut up. We did that interview, and I don't think the interviewer asked any questions for like 2 hours.
Anybody in this industry shuts up, though. I think it's why we're in this industry.
We couldn't shut up, so they kicked us out.
That's why we made our own place.
That is true. Well, there's a lot of introverts in role-playing games, and they stay and be quiet, and they don't want to talk or do anything, right? Just like Nonat. He's very
just
shy.
Like me. Oh, I hate talking. I can't stand it.
The secret about extrovert and introvert is just like any labels, it oversimplifies complex
completely
way that people interact. There are a lot of people who, when you force them to label or when you convince them that these labels are real things, will label themselves an introvert. But when it's about tabletop RPGs or their favorite hobby, will talk your ear off more than someone who labeled themselves an extrovert.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's all contextual.
Exactly.
That is true. So what about crafting? Because it's funny, because if you think of 3.5 and Pathfinder 1, you needed crafting. Always had someone crafting.
There's an evolution, right? In
you had to have
crafting doubled your money, but you had to spend XP.
Right.
And
Oh, right.
Pathfinder 1,
Yeah, I
in
hate that.
basically, as far as I know, the more or less the only thing that was regressive in Pathfinder 1, mostly it was 3.5 with good fixes to things. The only regressive element of Pathfinder 1 is that Pathfinder 1 removed all XP costs and everything except for magic item crafting.
Mm-hmm.
They replaced it with 5 times the XP that it would cost in gold pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But for reasons unknown to me, they did not do that in magic item crafting. So they replaced it with no cost. So it doubles your money and the cost is nothing. Which, by the way, since 3.5 gave you more XP if you were lower level than the rest of your party, it wasn't really that much of a cost to spend
No, it
XP because you
wasn't.
would catch up anyway.
Yeah, no, it,
But
I
or at least
remember that.
over time it didn't. But at least it sort of felt like one. So some people didn't do it because they didn't realize they
It
were going
doesn't
to
feel
catch up.
good to undo experience. You
Yeah,
know?
no, it doesn't. I
Yeah.
see why XP was removed. I'm not even saying removing XP was regressive. That was good. But the thing that was regressive was not giving the 5 times gold value into crafting costs when they did to
Yeah, that's
everything
weird.
else.
Oh, by the way, make sure everyone likes the video. I always forget. I have this on my note here. It says say likes.
We only have 27 likes, and we've had
28
like 70,
likes.
50 to
Well,
70
no, now what do you do?
people.
You do this thing where you're gonna like be drunk and go silly if you get a certain number of likes. If we
I
get
don't do that as much anymore.
if we
I
get
just-
50 likes, no Nat is gonna do something super silly
Excuse me.
right now.
I don't
I-
think you have the jurisdiction.
I think
If we,
so.
get, if we get 50 likes,
50 likes.
Nonat is going to do something that's going to make him question whether he made a good decision, which is come onto this stream and
That's
talk
right.
about the gold economy.
That's right.
And
He's
let
like
Steven say what he's going to do.
That's right. I don't know what he's gonna do, but it's gonna be something amazing.
But
Amazing.
I'm glad you've learned from me, Steven. That
I did.
to
I was
get the
watching
likes-
yours, and then you got those likes so fast. I was like, "That's a good tactic. I'm
Yep.
gonna do that, but I'm not gonna do the crazy thing."
It wasn't about
No,
that
that's
in that
gonna
one,
do
though.
the
It was
crazy
that
thing.
He promised to do a new stream
Right.
about,
I do
about
need to do that.
dragons.
You're right. Yeah, I need to do that this
You
weekend.
promised to do a new stream about dragons, and you undersold yourself.
And then you did it immediately. Up, we're up to
much.
41 likes. Still need
Yeah.
9
Yeah,
more,
so
and
you
then
were
no
like,
Nat.
oh, if I get 120 before the stream ends,
And then it shot to like
200.
one. Yeah, it
before
was
the stream
ridiculous.
ended.
See, I need to do Smash or Pash on all the dragons in the book.
What is Smash or Pash?
Oh,
What is
Steven,
that?
you sweet summer child.
I know. Well, I don't watch all
It's
the.
whether
I don't
or
watch
not
all the
that-
YouTubes.
You
It's whether or
find
not
someone-
he's romantically interested in each
Oh,
of the
well,
dragons.
keep in mind, I got married before all that, so
Okay.
It's like Tinder.
I got it. Oh, now I know what it means.
Okay.
Like hot or not. Got it.
Yeah, it's exactly
is.
hot.
It
Yeah,
basically
it's hot or
is.
not. Got it.
It
got
all
it. Got
started
it.
with Markiplier doing it for all the Pokemon, and since then it has just
Oh, okay.
shot off.
Got it.
Fair
it.
enough.
I-
So yeah, Steven, I think that it was a must-have, especially in Pathfinder 1 beyond everything else, because it was just
Yeah.
like, do you have this and you're in Kingmaker or some other thing with downtime? You have twice as much.
Right.
All of your liquid gold turns into double, and all of the items you find turn into the most powerful item possible because you sell them for half. Oh, that has an equal value because you sell them for half, then craft them for half into whatever other item. So then the combination of that and not having rarity meant that in PF1, if you had enough downtime, there was literally no point in the GM trying to find some kind of item to drop for
Nope.
you
Mhm.
because your party would sell them all, then craft, losing no value
Mhm.
into like a big 6 item that gave higher bonuses or something like that.
So Dylan for $4.99 said, "Any word on when we're getting Battlezoo Ancestry Dragons for Foundry pre-purchasely and eagerly awaiting since my new game Everyone is Dragons."
We mentioned that at the beginning of the stream, but it's coming soon.
Well, I'll give you even more details. It's ready.
Okay.
It's ready. Except we had our super reviewer go through it today, and so he found a whole bunch of things. So they're fixing it now. It's pretty much ready to go. There is
Most of the things I'm seeing today are like the 5e Battlezoo Bestiary. Is there
he
a
did that
different place
first.
where there's
He
also
did.
ones
It's
on
the same
dragon?
reviewer. He did Battlezoo Bestiary first 5e, and then he got to
got it.
Dragons today. But the thing is that so the programmers I have for Foundry are actually the same guys who work at Foundry.
Mhm.
For better or for worse, they're like, okay, we got all these cool things that we're adding to it, but these aren't going to be available until like the next 2 versions of Foundry. And I'm like,
Oh, right, because they know what
That's
the advanced version of
great.
Foundry is.
that doesn't help me now. So I was like, great. That's awesome. I like that you guys have initiative. Too much initiative. Can we make 2 versions? Can we make a version that works now, and then we'll put the cool stuff in like in a month? So they were like, fine. So they split it in half. So because there's some like really cool things you can do with like breath weapons, and there's a lot of this cool automation they're putting in. So for better or for worse, they like to do that, and I appreciate it. But I also want to get it out. So it should be out. I'm trying to get it out this week. So there you go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So
But there's a global shipping crisis. So
there's
you
a global
never know.
shipping crisis.
So it'll probably be
Foundry.
another 8 months.
Hey, well, they actually got a brand new tool. Foundry had this thing because what I had to do was I had to get the code to them and then they would post it. They put a brand new tool online where you can put the code up, press a button, it checks it, and then posts it immediately. And I actually just did that for Battles of Bestiary, which is up to version 1.0.4. And we updated the what is it? The salt flyer. Which one is it again? The
Oh yeah, I think it's the Salt Glider.
salt glider. We made a
noticed
mistake.
while we were making Jewel of the Indigo Isles that it had an ability that was like described as one of those things where you kind of flurry at a bunch.
Yes.
You know, you make a bunch of attacks at a bunch of different people that don't increase your multiple attack penalty
Correct.
until afterwards. Like, no, I'm sure you've seen that on a bunch of monsters.
Right. You get like
in
2
the
or
game.
3 or 4
But,
attacks at
unfortunately,
once.
this one didn't say it had to be against different targets.
Correct.
So
made
we
a
wound up
mistake.
just making a bunch of extremely powerful ranged attacks that could be against the same person.
It's been errated.
And that was way too
Errated.
deadly of a focus fire amount.
Yeah.
So
It's errated, and it's officially if you download the Foundry module now, and it's just actually errated on Easy to PF2 Easy. So if you use that, it's on there as well. So every time we do erratas, this is why erratas are actually a pain. I have to write 5 people because they have to then update it on their systems too.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
So Anathema M says we always try to help content creators get their content on our platform in the easiest way we can. So it probably is a Foundry person.
Oh yeah, that tool was great. That tool was really that was an impressive tool. I mean, as a coder myself, I know what Foundry is doing, and it is scary. Which is why I'm actually so heavily promoting Foundry, because I know.
Wait, so you're promoting Foundry because you're afraid of Foundry? So
yes.
you've been intimidated?
I'm intimidated. No,
you know what they're doing, and it's scary.
I know what they're doing, and it's
conquering
it's impressive. Because I've been developing my whole life, and so I'm looking. I check out the GitHubs. I'm looking at I talk to the coders. Like I know what they're doing. It's hard to beat groupthink with an RPG system like Foundry. It's actually almost too good. It's one of those where you can like everything you want is in that system. That's the only thing I say Foundry is almost too much in it. Is that I do like my systems a little
too much.
It's too good. It's too good. No, because like we were playing the other day, and I don't know this. They're like, oh, this thing affects you. Just drag the little suitcase icon onto your character, and then your character changes. And the good news of that is that you can then put all your effects on your character. The bad news is if you forget one of those effects, which happens, and then suddenly, oh, I've been rolling -2 for like the last 4 sessions. Oops, like that happens more than once. I've seen that.
No, it's happened to us in Foundry. Those are the ones where like I'll notice that someone's rolling something, and my mental math from creating the system will be like, that seems low for this level.
Correct.
And then we'll always find out we didn't turn something on.
Right.
Or we didn't turn something on.
Too much
or
automation.
especially somebody's item got unequipped somehow and it did not count as being equipped. That's like the most common.
Yep. That is correct. Ooh, the project coordinator. There we go. Yeah, I don't even know. I've just so many people at Foundry I'm always talking to. I don't even know who everyone is. But we got the 2 Ians. Everyone who works on our code has to be named Ian. So
yeah. Well, I mean, when at one point somebody asked, when are you going to get the Foundry out for this? And I said we have top Ians on that.
There you go. The top. There you go. And you 2 are going to do your stuff known out on Foundry, I saw.
We are, yep.
Because that is the
support
system.
for Sinclair's library, yeah.
Yes.
Do you have top Ians?
I don't know if we have any
they
Ians.
don't.
Like
They do
I've
not have
been
the
in
Ians.
touch with 2 people. I don't know their names.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are places you can find Ians.
All right.
I've heard there's a news site called Ian World.
Ian
Okay,
World.
all right.
Oh, we're only up to 48 likes. 2 more, and then No Nat's going to start dancing.
That's not true at all.
It's completely true. It's completely true. I run your character. Look at that. You're so close. You're so close. Oh boy. So wait, I did have something else about. Oh, so back to economies. Whose idea was it to make XP 1,000 per level for all levels in Pathfinder 2? Which is one of those. Why doesn't everyone do? I'm sure other role playing games do this.
The exact math that we wound up with is for the encounter builder math was me. But again, the idea that we want to do something like that was a group decision that we all talked about. And you know, there was like
it was a group decision, but it was me. Got it.
It was a group decision.
Got
I
it.
was the one. No, like Steven, you understand.
Oh,
you'll
I know
have a
exactly.
meeting, and then you'll
Yes.
send one programmer to implement it. Right?
Correct. I'm
So you can't say that the person who implemented it was the one who was like, "Oh, this is all my idea," because it wasn't.
But you can
Mhm.
say that it was.
We came to it as a group with many different opinions. Like you go in and right, like I would say that some like Stephen Rennie McFarland like more wanted to just do milestone and only milestone.
I
That's
love
what he was
Milestone.
coming to with the group, right?
Yeah, I love Milestone.
And he had a lot of good points. I really like milestone,
Yeah.
and I completely agree with all of the rationale he gave. But what some of the rest of us were saying, and what I was saying, is that you're completely right. But a lot of people like XP too, and if you make milestone the default, it's very hard to get XP
Correct.
into it. Whereas if you make
Yes.
XP the default, especially with the way we did XP, being very easy to transform into milestone. So
Mhm.
you might as well put in the one that's harder to do so that you did the hard
Yep.
work and the players don't have to. And then Steven was like, yeah, okay.
No, you're completely right.
He eventually
That's the way you do
was
it.
like, okay, sure. But I'm going to run a milestone. And we're like, of course. And that's fine. Milestone is great.
I was talking
So
to Ron.
when we had
Whoop.
a giant discussion, a lot of points went back and forth. And eventually, you know, I said that I thought I could get it at 1,000. We once we were trying to get it at 100, but
Oof.
it couldn't be.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
that
couldn't
would
be
that
done
would suck.
because 100 would be good, like 100%, but it couldn't be done because of some of the granularity on how much the monsters gave. We needed to use that last digits place. I think we needed like a 5 at the end of something in the thousands. That would have been a 0.5,
yeah.
and 0.5 was not acceptable because no one likes fractions or decimals.
No.
So we wound up with 1,000.
So hey, real quick, first of all, we broke 50. I know that.
Yay.
I know you're in a play. Why don't you give us a preview of the play or something? Come on, you got to do something
I'm not
fun.
gonna play.
Weren't
I was
you
gonna play back in January.
Right. Well, that
That's
counts.
what Steven knows. His knowledge is really outdated.
All right,
But
let
you
me
can
open my
think of
character
some of
sheet.
it.
Let me open my character sheet.
You got to do something
and-
silly
All
or
right.
something fun. You got to give people their money's worth.
So I'm untrained in performance, so that is a dirty 19. Not bad.
So what's that mean?
You tell me, GM.
Oh, what you're gonna sing? You got to do something. Well,
Cool.
you
My
tell me.
character sings a great song.
Oh, this is not fun. I'm not.
That's
What's the
right.
name? Okay, what's the name?
You should
What's the name?
describe what the song is about.
Yeah,
so
why
that
don't you
the
describe?
GM can
I'm one of
figure out
those
if it was
GMs
effective.
that you can't be a bard unless you sing.
Oh, you're the
you mean-
worst.
I know. That's right.
All right. I think I'm just gonna get my dice and go. I'm not
Okay,
really
well, okay. How about
feeling-
this?
Table flip.
I'll give you. Wait, I got a better one. What is your alignment in real life, no Nat? We've been asking
wanna
everyone
say
this.
neutral good.
Okay.
Like, I'm not lawful. I am very egotistical, and a lot of times I will put myself first. I'll be totally transparent about that.
Mhm.
So I'm like not lawful. I'm not this perfect person, but I also don't like to actively hurt people and feel like people should be able to make their own decisions.
Neutral good.
Yeah, like I'm not
That
quite
sounds like
chaotic.
somewhere between neutral and neutral good. So probably
Yeah, like, I
somewhere
wouldn't-
on that borderline.
I wouldn't break the law to help someone achieve their dream. So I'm not chaotic. So I think
You wouldn't
neutral
break
good's
the
about where I lie.
law. So I say I'm lawful evil, but people say that's the worst evil because you have
Steven,
to follow
you
the
said
rules.
theoretically
that
the
you,
worst.
you said you were chaotic neutral with dreams of being lawful
Oh,
evil.
that's right. I am chaotic neutral. I am chaotic.
That you dream of being lawful evil and you
Yeah.
really want to be, but you can't because you're too chaotic.
It's too evil though. It's too evil. But chaotic neutral. I am fairly. I'm actually not. I don't know what I am. Man, it's so hard to come up with your own alignment.
You are a person because alignment is way too.
It's like having 9 options for 8 million or 8 billion different people.
Just like we were talking about with extrovert and introvert, all of these labels are oversimplifications.
I still think the funniest variant rule that PF2 added, and I don't even know why, but it's just funny to me, is the 9x9 alignment chart, where you're like a 1 to 9 from lawful to chaotic, and then a 1 to 9 from good to evil.
That's too much.
It was just funny to me.
But what? Okay, no, Nat. How about this? We're all learning a lot. What's your class and what's your level? For No Nat 1S, doesn't have to be you. Your character.
Oh, not me. Oh, for like the No Nat ones, like performance character. I feel like Bard is too much, but I have done some music videos on the channel, so I could say Bard, but that's so easy.
That could be an archetype.
Performer, though, so I mean, Bard does make.
But it's just so easy because you can say every YouTuber in the world is a Bard. That's why when I did my
I don't sing. I'm not a Bard.
When I made XP to level 3 as a Pathfinder character, I specifically didn't give him Bard because it's way too easy. But like, I'm not a rogue. I'm not a champion. I'm not a fighter.
Does your persona have a different alignment than you?
No, he's pretty similar. He's still pretty full himself. My persona is not that different from me. It's just louder and more confident. But no, as for class is tough. Class is really hard to think of on the spot because there's so much to analyze. It could be alchemist just because I like to get drunk on stream.
You're alchemist. I was thinking about that. I was like, you know all those. You knew like that dirty Girl Scout. Like you knew all these weird drinks that I've never heard of. I was like, that's an alchemist. You're an alchemist. An alchemist with a bard archetype.
I could live with that. Yeah, the bard archetype just for that little bit of inspired courage. Sure.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, happy with that. All right, Steven, deflecting it back to you.
Well, what am I? I'm a forever GM.
That's not a class.
Yes, it is.
Every GM has played at least one session.
I only played one session for the first time ever last week. Ever.
Okay, so
of Pathfinder of second edition, yes.
Oh, second edition.
Ever. So
you
actually
don't have to be what your class is. What is your Steven Glicker roll for combat persona? What class is that?
Jason
Manager
McDonald.
level 9.
If you're on the chat, what class am I? And it's better for someone else because Jason's known me for like 40 years and he knows I'm what would be a master of none, but actually I'm a master of a lot of things too. I'm one of those people who knows a lot about everything.
So I guess rogue?
It is kind of rogue. It is kind of roguish.
Yeah. In D&D, I'd say bard because of jack of all trades. But
or jack of all trades. But
that's not in PF2.
No, it's not.
So I think I have to say rogue.
Kind of roguey. I actually
mastermind rogue would make sense.
Oh,
you
definitely.
Are mastermind rogue.
Yeah. There you go. See,
exactly his plan.
Exactly. I am a mastermind rogue. You've known me, Mark. You know me a while. Yeah. Like that's. I do. I spend a lot of time learning things constantly and implementing them.
So if we were on a leverage crew, you could be the mastermind, and Nona could be the grifter.
I am the mastermind because I'm always the one leading these things. So yeah, I am.
Does that make me the hacker?
I was about to say, what are you now? What are you, Mark?
If we're on a leverage crew, I'd be the hacker. My class is probably wizard.
What?
Tech wizard.
It says wizard. You might have an unquenchable intellectual curiosity about how everything in the world around you works. That's probably true. Use esoteric jargon and technical terms to precisely describe the minutiae of magical effects.
Oh my god, that is so much you.
Lost on other people.
All right, and let's bring this all. We've done class. We've done whatever. Nairufa said, if you were like teleported into D&D, what ancestry would you be?
Which is funny because lit RPG is like my favorite genre right now, and that's exactly what lit RPG is that people transported usually
If we were transported into D&D, we would all be humans because we were transported.
No, that you get
reincarnated.
No. That's not how lit RPG works. Lit RPG is you end up in the world, and then you even have a character sheet so you can see what your character sheets are often, and then it
depends on whether you're transported or reincarnated though, right?
No, you're not reincarnated, you're transported. You can go back and forth. If you're transported
directly there, then in most of those stories you wind up looking like you did before.
You look totally
there, then you just make your new character.
Well, one of the most popular ones is, I forgot the name of the series, but It's one of the first lit RPGs where they go into the world by this evil GM, and one's like a troll, one's like an elf, like they get completely changed, and it's the best description of a troll with charisma 4 I've ever seen, because he is always uncontrollably doing the most disgusting things ever. And I was like, I've never ever seen what charisma of a 3 or 4 would be like. Now I know. Like, he writes it really well, because he's just can't even control what he's doing. It's so repulsive.
So Nairufa's exact words, though, if you got isekai, which means you died in the real world and you wake up in this other world.
So that's what isekai tensei, though. If you were just isekai, you could just...
Mark being the wizard. He's such a wizard. Oh my god.
Because I was just
so
doing the wizard
annoying.
Thing, so thank you. Steven, I was hoping you would say that, and I really appreciate it.
You are so annoying. Oh, God man. Bless Linda. So what would we be in I
guess long story short,
were reborn,
if you could choose to become one of those ancestries, what would it be?
And you get to pick what ancestry matches your personality. I think maybe Steven would be an Orpok because he likes them so much.
I'd be a dragon. I think everyone, it's like, what would you be? Dragon. I'd be dragon. That'd be, of course, which heritage, that's a whole other story. I don't know, man. Although I did like the Havoc. The Havoc is pretty fun.
You could be a Havoc Dragon.
I do like Havoc
Steven,
Dragon.
Although I think that like a hot mess is not really the best description.
No,
you have it together a lot more.
No,
than
it's not
a Havoc Dragon.
Wait, it's not the hot. It's which dragon?
Havoc Dragons are kind of a hot mess.
Yeah, they're a hot mess.
They try their best and they always mess things up.
No, not Havoc. I'd be. Too many dragons to choose from. Silver, maybe.
There's too many kinds.
You know, Silver's pretty good.
Maybe I would be a dungeon.
You would be a dungeon. You would be a dungeon. I'd be a dragon and you'd be a dungeon.
Some weird kind of fame.
We're done.
Coming in and doing something strange and then leaving.
I'd probably be a Gonzi ratfolk.
What? You'd be a rat?
I love the
Yosoki rat.
I do. I love Yosoki too. They are awesome.
They're so charismatic and nice, and they're so community focused in their culture. And I just like the Gonzi. I like the Gonzi's inherent link to performance.
Wow. Yeah, I do.
They have my favorite level 1 ancestry feat, which is, I think it's just called like Born Performer or something like that.
Yeah.
What's the feat? Creative Prodigy. That's the one. Yeah. Like, it's just a simple, like, you get trained in performance.
You'd be a skeleton. You'd be a skeleton.
I'm not thin enough to be a skeleton.
I don't think skeleton.
Skeleton's good ancestry. I do like that. I actually do like all those new ancestries and the new heritages and archetypes.
A few more of them got the full ancestry treatment.
Oh, actually, I was pretty disappointed they didn't do that, but I could see why. Because that book is so jam-packed, I think they ran out of room.
Well, I can't believe they added a whole adventure to the end.
Most of them, except for skeletons, are things that you kind of...
They're grafted onto your existing.
Yeah, right. Like you're a
sense.
fighter, and then you get bitten by a ghoul, and you contract ghoul fever.
Yeah.
And then you eventually die. But you were already a fighter at that point, so that makes more sense to be something like an archetype where you gain it during playing than something that is your first level, and then that's it.
That dungeon ancestry.
Like, well, what happens if you get bitten by a ghoul at level 5? Well, too late. It's a first level ancestry choice that you had.
Yeah, but so that's fair. But what about zombie versus skeleton?
Yeah, the zombie and the skeleton, I think we're both on the cusp. But the idea being that with zombie, like, if you look at what kind of zombie you are in Book of the Dead, which obviously not everyone can look at, but it was in the preview. You're not a mindless zombie, right? You're still like you're starting to decay, but a lot of your body's still there, and so there's enough of you left that you kind of still are an elf.
So you don't think
you kind of still are a dwarf, or you kind of still are whatever your original thing is. It wouldn't be weird if there was like a rat folk ability that required a rat tail and you still had it.
Yeah.
Whereas with a skeleton, you're just bones, and like
that's fair.
You wouldn't really.
Don't tails have bones?
I guess they do with their so maybe tail
Well,
wasn't a good
some are
example.
some are
maybe
cartilage.
wings,
Yeah.
maybe cobalt
Some are
wings,
cartilage, some are
or-
bones. Depends on the animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're both right.
Mhm.
But the point being, like, you're not really that ancestry anymore because you're just made out of bones.
Interesting.
And so the question more became, would it make sense that you should still be the other ancestry? Should you lose it or
So I got a question for you while we're talking about this book. This has been a weird stream,
A
but
little
it's a
weird
fun
episode,
one. I like it because Lich archetype, man. I'd be a Lich, man. And I do like it doesn't start till level 12 to get
Same.
the feats.
That's part of the history of
Oh, of
Pathfinder.
course, 'cause you have
It
to be
even says it
powerful.
in the bestiary that
Why-
you need
why
to be
did
able
they-
to cast 6 level
Why did they
spells.
change it to Soul Cage? Was there a specific reason?
So
Yes, because the word phylactery is like Tefillin, right?
Mhm.
And so
it's in a negative context, but a phylactery is a heavy necklace worn by some of the Jewish culture, which
Right,
holds
I do
the
know.
Torah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know.
it's
that I know.
also known as Tefillin. And they having a thing that said is like the most evil thing that you can ever have,
Got
and
it.
you created by a vile ritual and filled with dark magic and evilness. That is like not really great in terms of Jewish representation. So Soul Cage,
Mhm.
it tells you what it is, and it's not a negative stereotype. That's not to say that like people don't want to use any words that are from Jewish culture, right? Like golems, which are more not appropriating the term, but it's like, no, golems really were this clay thing that had like the word emet for truth written on them, and they came to life. So that's actually using it accurately. So that's what it was, Stephen. It was wanting to not inaccurately use
Got it.
like
I remember they
Jewish
mentioned
culture
it.
and say that it was
Yeah.
evil.
I couldn't
Yeah.
remember why. I remember they changed it. I always find that interesting when they change certain names for certain things in Pathfinder or any role playing game for that matter.
I figured you knew what they were since you're Jewish, Stephen, but
Well, I knew what it
That's
was, but
why.
I once you said it, it made sense. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that made sense. I didn't understand that exactly.
I do agree with Cheese. I think Lich did need more in its archetype. A lot of what it got was like a couple touch features and some things that make you come back to life better. And it didn't really give you much of the Lich.
Yeah, the
power
problem, I know why they
beyond,
did it,
yeah.
because you can't do 3 pages, you have to do 4. So it's either 2 or
Stephen,
4.
you said exactly the
Interesting.
same thing I was thinking. Like, to be clear,
know.
when it came to Book of the Dead, like I was not the design lead on it, and I was spending a lot of time helping Mike on Guns and Gears. I did come in, I did a pass on Lich, but like when it came to organizing it, right, I'm only speculating based on my knowledge from working at Python. That's exactly right. It cannot be 3. It's 2 or it's 4.
That's
And if it was
fascinating.
4,
Yep.
that'd be way more space than it
Mhm.
needed because of the fact that it starts at level 12. The only feats are 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. It would be real repetitive by the time you filled it out. So what happened is that just like the Soul Cage information and the lore information took a lot of space for Lich. And
Yeah,
so
so-
it didn't have enough space for that many feats, but just like Steven said, it couldn't be 3 pages, which
Correct.
maybe would have been perfect to give it a few more feats.
That's
That's
one
too
thing.
bad.
So everything in these books, since I literally do the layout, it has to be 1 page, 2, or any other even amount. And then it goes 2, 4, 6, 8. It's very hard to do an odd number pages unless you
could
do
theoretically
1.
do
It's very hard.
like 3 and then immediately 3 afterwards.
Correct.
Uh,
That works.
If you do, you'll probably have whoever your layout person is, which in my case is Steven, like glaring at you for trying to do it. And you are in a very
Yep.
tenuous situation because if you mess up even one of those 2, the whole thing is screwed up.
Is that to
And
keep
if-
it
if
so
you
that the
insert
left and
something.
right page when the book
Yes.
is open are
Yes.
related to each
Bingo.
other?
yes.
Yes, so the
it'll-
spreads look nice when you open it up. You can see them both.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at
Interesting,
this, a 2-page spread always has to start on the left side. You can't have a 2-page spread start on the right
Yeah.
and then have it go to the next page. That's impossible. I mean, you could. It's stupid.
You could. It's just it's very
No one
bad
would do it.
usability
No,
and it doesn't
you would
look
never
good.
do that. I mean, so you
So
have to have a
it's
2-page
It's
spread.
acceptable to do 3 and then 3, but if you do,
Mhm.
here's what gets messed up. If you re-alphabetized those
Mhm.
sections, you're in trouble because now you probably didn't have 3 right next to 3.
It's
You
just
have a bunch
easy.
of those.
Keep
bad
everything
ranking
at
spreads.
2. You keep everything at 2 or
Or any multiple
4.
of 2.
Yeah, any variable of 2, and things will layout much faster, a lot
One
easier.
more quick design question I had that while y'all are here, me and my design team were talking, and we were wondering, in every PF2 book, and I think D&D and PF1 did the same thing, why is the section of spell descriptions alphabetical and not by level?
Because it's not the same.
Generally, spells are alphabetical for reference.
Yeah, and also
But
it's
wouldn't
not
it be
always
easier to flip to a level 1 section and then have it be alphabetical in the level 1
Because-
No,
section?
you're talking about one particular use case, which
Yeah.
is shopping for spells as a wizard
Mhm.
who is like, I want to prepare a first level spell. So let me look at what are on the first level list.
Mhm.
And that's why a web tool is great, because you can see it in any
Sure.
kind of view.
He's reading my mind.
If you only can have one version, you need it to be one that can be looked up accurately whenever you need it. So if you have an adventure or a magic item that says it casts fireball, like all of us here know that that's a 3rd level spell. But what if it said it casts flame wisp from Secrets of Magic? Does everyone know what level that is?
I don't.
No.
Okay.
Doesn't it usually say cast this at this level?
No. Only if it
Mhm.
is
I-
higher than the minimum.
Oh, okay.
And also
It's a
keep
second
in
level spell,
mind,
by the way.
in some
So,
editions. Wait, let me go.
If you find a magic item that says when you activate it, it casts flame wisp, or like a thing that says through the hallway, there's a constant effect of the lock spell, then you're going to have to, you won't be able to find it, because you'll have to be like, what level is it? Well, I don't know. And so obviously it can have a page number in some cases, but
Mhm.
that also, if you're someone who's not allowed to use a page number, which some people aren't, it makes it very, very unusable for referencing.
Yeah, and
Okay.
But
Brett,
it's very good usable for shopping. Like when I'm shopping for spells, I always use something like Archives of Nethys's level by level view.
Same.
I do not use the alphabetized list.
Mark talks a lot. So yes, Brett Bowser said what I was going to say is that in PF2, PF1, and other games, remember different classes got spells at different levels. Don't forget
That
that.
is fair with it before, when they
Yeah, so you can't do it that way. And the other thing is, so if you are a third-party publisher, like you're going to be, Nonat,
Mhm.
you cannot reference page numbers. It's not allowed.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So
So
that's
life would have been really bad for you if Paizo did it by level,
Mm-hmm.
because it would be hard for people to find the spells you're
Correct.
asking them to find. If you said find flame wisp, you'd be allowed to say Pathfinder Secrets of Magic.
okay, so we
but
can reference the book title. That's
You
good.
could-
They would then have to go on a
certain
scavenger
ones.
hunt in Secrets of Magic until they found it from your book.
yeah,
With
there's
with Paizo's own, they could say,
yeah,
flame wisp
they're
8,
allowed to do it. And there's a
whatever.
list of what books you're allowed to reference on the OGL.
Mhm.
They've updated it because of
Okay.
me. Because when I was writing Bastard, I was like, you guys are missing these. They're like, whoops, and then they added
Are there
it.
any that are missing from the license right now, currently published?
Not anymore.
No, they
because
keep
of Steven.
updating it.
Okay.
And to be honest, if there's a book in there that's missing that I need, I will literally call Eric and say add it because I need it for my book.
That's awesome.
So it helps. It helps to have friends.
All right.
2 hours,
So
I think that's
we
enough.
covered it. and
That's a
we-
good one.
That is
Yeah.
a good one. So, Nonat, you want to be on next week and you can pump your Kickstarter, or are you going to be too busy, you think?
I will let you know. I know it's not official yet, but I might be doing a 12-hour live stream leading up to the launch of
Oh,
the
so you might
Kickstarter.
just be asleep.
So I might be dead. I will keep you updated.
Then that's the best. That's the best time to have a Nonat.
Yeah, when I'm on, probably intoxicated.
That
and
time you
sleep
will be a
deprived.
skeleton, just like Steven was hoping.
No, that would be good. Look, we got 60 likes. We got to come up. So we didn't have to do anything like goofy, but we did find out a lot about what we would be if we were transported to the role playing. 2 doesn't do that. Like when I was a kid, didn't you always like figure out your stats and you're figuring out like what I would
still do
be? It's like
It's harder
always.
There were
It's harder in
websites online
PF2.
that would try to tell you your stats.
I know. Well,
You would take
strength
a
is the
quiz
toughest
and they would be
one.
like, here's what your stats are. I remember that like it would ask questions like about certain things that you could do or that you've done. I took one of those and it told me I had like really, really quite low strength. And,
No,
yeah,
really?
it said I had really quite low strength and like slightly above 10 dexterity.
What?
Pretty good constitution.
Wow.
very very high int according to this random website, and like in the middle on like wisdom and charisma.
So you
except
are a
my
wizard.
highest were int and
You're a
con,
wizard.
which is like at the time those were very good stats to have for a wizard, so that'd be fine.
Wizard.
All right. Well, I should probably go record tomorrow's video, huh?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
I need to work on that Indigo Isles so that people
I know.
I can get Steven part 2.
And I need to check my
Isles.
15,000 Discord messages that just came in. But so where are you, Nonat? Everyone knows where you are.
I'm at youtube.com/nonat1s.
There you go.
And then Sinclair's Library on Kickstarter.
One day.
And also Nonat1s on Twitter.
One day, Sinclair's Library will come out.
Next Tuesday.
Really?
That's the day.
Oh. You should send us an early copy. You can look it over. Maybe.
Of the Kickstarter?
Of the
We don't have, the book is not written yet.
Oh,
not
it's a
gonna
real
be written in
Kickstarter.
advance, Steven.
It's a real
Yeah.
Kickstarter. He's not just fooling around.
We don't have
I-
money, Steve.
I mean, Steven, you had Battles of Bestiary 1.
That was the
pretty
only
much
thing I had
there.
written.
But
And that was only half
this
written.
next Kickstarter, we're not going to have any of the 3 completely done,
No,
probably.
no. I have
No.
art. I have art.
But we're
for the
going to have
next-
a ton of art, and we're going to have a lot
the
of
next
groundwork.
one.
And
Yeah,
that's
we have a ton of
probably
art.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
Donut has.
Yeah, we've got a ton of art. We've got a lot of like really early copy like archetypes and
Got
feats
it.
written out that I'm sure are going to go through 25 changes by the time it publishes. So
Mm.
Yeah, that
Got
makes
it.
sense.
I can't send you what we have for the cursed archetype.
Sure.
So that one's
I'll
all
look at it.
formatted and was playtest. There's going to be some changes going through it, but it looks the most complete.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll shoot that to you guys.
Yeah. Then Mark can
Cool.
rip it to pieces.
Please do.
Actually, if you want anyone to rip it, you want us to rip it to pieces. So
I will not be doing any kind
Nope.
of close read review.
No,
of,
we don't have time for
of
that.
Anything.
No, we do
because
not have
I
time
just
for
don't
that.
feel right about it.
That's fair.
If you want to get a private review from me, then that's a different story.
We're gonna be
talk to
hiring
Steven
on
about whether
editors.
that's something. But
oh yeah,
I
yeah.
don't do public reviews of things because of the fact that I'm like I praise a lot, but I'm also fairly critical of other things, and I don't feel like that's. I feel
that
like
my
my
job?
position in the industry
That's
is
my
such
job.
that it's not that it seems like punching down to say anything negative publicly about anything, and so the feedback I would want to give would include things to improve and things that were good, and so I won't do it publicly.
Got it.
Because my stream actually asked me about this because even there were some things I was talking about on my Discord about like certain other RPGs where I'm like, this are even one that were like, you could do that one though, where I was like, this RPG is amazing, but it's completely not for me, and I dislike it immensely because I'm the worst player for it, but it's not anybody's fault except my own. And they're like, you could do that, couldn't you? And I was like, I still don't want to do that because it will come across as negative, and it's a smaller RPG than Pathfinder. And so I won't do it publicly. Sorry, Steven.
No, that's fine. I actually no, I'm the same way. I mean, I criticize things maybe in D&D or even Pathfinder, but I always balance it. I always try to say like I understand. I know why they did things certain ways. And to be honest, I don't review or look at other game systems that much. I mean, I play them, but I don't talk about
I'm
them
willing
publicly.
to talk about D&D because they are the big dog in the industry,
yeah. Well,
and
we have
also
to.
I feel like I'm in some ways more positive towards them than the other guests on this show. So
Oh, you definitely are.
so but
Definitely.
I'm not willing to talk about smaller RPGs and say things even if it's a mix of good and bad, because I feel like that's something to do privately.
Okay. Well, we got to start our new Toon RPG. My favorite RPG
Toon
of all
RPG.
time. Toon.
All right.
I love Toon. It's such a good RPG.
So this was a good show. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for
for
giving
having
us
me.
60 likes. That's pretty good for us.
Yeah, pretty good. Next time we'll have to do 100, and then we'll have Nonat. We're gonna pre-plan what he's gonna do ahead of time.
Yeah,
Wow.
we'll talk when you can hit 100 likes.
Yeah, if we can hit 100 likes, maybe he'll do something. Remember,
I can hit 100
120
likes.
was the amount that he put in his own stream, and he way
all I need to
overhit
do,
that.
I throw a contest in here. Boom, we get 100 people in here, and everyone has to like who gets the contest. We do a little tracker. You get 100
If
likes
they like
in 10
it, you'll
seconds.
give them an ad for the new thing. There's more than just nothing will ever be the same ever again.
It was a teaser.
It was amazing. It was a really well done
It's
teaser.
a
And it did it
teaser. It's
perfectly.
not
I'm just-
supposed to do
I
more
am
than
teasing you,
tease
teaser.
you. It's a teaser.
It was a great teaser.
All right. See you guys
All
next week.
Bye.